We are live.
Hello?
Nope, that's not what we say.
What?
Oh, bam, we're live.
I
I
thought I was testing your mic for a second.
Matt Souza read us the proper way this morning. Back on the Sevan Podcast, back from Spartanburg, South Carolina. Sevan is getting some sleep this morning so that he can be at his top performance this afternoon. But we're with you guys from 8 a.m. here in Spartanburg, South Carolina. This is the third and final day of the Crucible Retour 2023, fourth time we've had the Crucible event take place here in South Carolina, and the teams are getting things started this morning. Order of operations is going to be a little bit different today. The teams actually finished their entire competition before the individual athletes start. We'll also have some masters coverage in between there. We'll be bouncing back and forth from the turf floor to the main floor throughout the day, but we'll bring you the final heats of all divisions, the final events of all divisions, and as much of the action as we can. There is a little bit of simultaneous action today, so we won't have full coverage for every heat and every division as they have their long test of the weekend this morning as well. This is Team Event 5, rewritten version of the 2015 Games sled push workout. It's two 50-pointers, each with a 5-minute time cap. And at the 5 minutes, they're going to change the task. First up, we have a 120-yard sled push. This is the flip sled with 740 total pounds on it. They must change direction every 20 yards. And all of the members of the team are working at the same time. From left to right on your screen, lane 1 is Apex Predators. Lane 2 is Apex Performance Black. Lane 3, your leaders, BRRH from Blue City CrossFit. Lane 4, Camo Athletics, who have surged up into the podium hunt after taking a clean sweep yesterday. Lane 5, Zax and JR. And lane 6, Apex Purple. The early leaders with the blue shirt out there in front. Joe Cates leading the charge for the Camo team. Joe and Nick, Lauren and Addie taking 2 wins yesterday and vaulting themselves up into a tie for second place. The leaders are right next to them. Apex Performance Black making the turn at the far side of the floor. Excuse me, the leaders are BRRH making the turn at the far side of the floor. They've taken second place on all 4 of the tests we've had so far this weekend. They have 360 total points. 30 points behind them are Camo and Apex Performance Black, who's currently third in this heat. They're in the purple and gray tie-dye that's just off the screen right now. On screen is Camo.
It looks significantly harder right now. That first one looked like they cruised. Now everybody looks like at a dead stop.
So I actually competed in the Crescendo 2 years ago. JR paired me up with 3 members from his gym, and we had a flip sled push. It was 2 people do wall balls, the other 2 push the sled, and it obliterated me. And yes, it gets significantly harder. Just 1 down and back is hard. By the time you get to 3 trips down and back, it's pretty brutal.
Is that where they're at right now? What number is this for them? Do we have a count?
They're turning every 20 yards. So they did 20, 40, 60, 80. That was 100 for Camo. These will be the last 20 yards that they have to push. We're only at the 2-minute mark. So they can evaluate the field here. They have 3 minutes to the time cap. All they have to do is beat the next best team by 1 step. There's no performance-based scoring for the teams. So as long as Camo gets this back across the line, they're going to take the first available 50 points today. Now, we do have an interesting situation where Camo could take all 200 points today, which would put them on 530 points. And if BRRH continues to take seconds, which they've done so far in every single test, those 6 second places would be enough to maintain the lead by 10 points. Camo does get it done, so 50 points, and they'll have 2.5 minutes to rest. A big fight going on for the second place position. It looks like BRRH is going to get it. And in lane number 1, Apex Predators, who haven't had much of a factor in terms of the podium conversation, are going to take second and steal points away from Performance Black, who's going to be 4th. And on the far side of the floor, Apex Purple is actually going to beat the team from CrossFit Crash. And CrossFit Crash team is going to take last here, and that's going to be pretty costly for them.
Wow. They look wrecked.
That CrossFit Crash team came today at 320, so they were only 10 points behind Performance Black and Camo, but giving up a lot of points there, taking 6th out of 6 in this heat. So first part of this 2-parter in the books, the 90 seconds until the switch. You see here is athletes going and grabbing their rope to bring it across the floor. In the meantime, the crew is removing the sandbags from the sled. There were 300 pounds worth of sandbag on the sled to get the total to 740 pounds. The total weight without them is 440 pounds. And now the athletes are going to have to do 80-yard sled pull in male-female pairs, alternating every 20 yards. So they only have to go down, back, down, back. They will have to, of course, unclip their rope and move it down the swing from the floor. The interesting thing about this is going to be that it's a male-female. There are 2 ropes on the sled. If one of you pulls harder than the other one, the sled goes out of your lane. The sled cannot go out of your lane. There's not room for that. So it's really going to be challenging to sync up how hard the male is pulling relative to the female. You're going to have tall athletes with short, a variety of different strengths. I think that from a team chemistry standpoint, a lot's going to be said about these teams right here.
Yeah, it's definitely going to test the teamwork because you could start to see figuratively and literally things go off the rails if they're not in good communication and pulling at the same time.
And I mentioned that when I did the workout here 2 years ago, it was 2 of us pushing at a time, and it was the same thing. If my partner was pushing too fast and I wasn't, then we were going off track, getting crooked. And when you're the person that's not as good or not as strong, you don't want to let that other person down. But it's 20 yards to pull 440 pounds across this turf.
Oh, and the sleds are actually moving a little bit quicker already than I thought they would right now, especially if you look at CrossFit Crash's sled going.
So JR mentioned to me this morning, he said, I'm curious to see how the other teams do. Like the athletes who train here obviously have experience here. There's only the one team, but they were last on the push. They are the early leaders on the pull. It's Reagan and Zach Galloway pulling in the first pair for CrossFit Crash. They are going to have a slight lead over the team from Apex Performance Black. Camo right up in the mix for the top 3. And notably, BRRH basically in the dead heat with the Predators for 4th and 5th after 1/4 of this sled pull. Now, Nick Peterson there doing a really cool technique of bringing the rope to the other side, basically using his forearms to unfurl the rope. That will eliminate any potential for a knot, which I don't think is going to happen.
Yeah.
And Camo and Crash and then Camo, are leading on the second of 4 pulls across the floor.
And you're already seeing some issues that might have come up with this rope as they got tangled around some of the sleds. Some of the athletes had to run back and untangle it. This guy's getting caught up over here. And so I think that slow start from the CrossFit Crash team might have been a little home turf advantage, knowing how tough it was going to get with this sled pull coming up.
It's Crash and Camo 1 and 2. They're basically in dead heat for the lead here. Camo, as we mentioned, needs all the points possible. They dug themselves in a hole on day 1. They climbed out of it yesterday. There still were 30 points behind the leaders, BRRH, to start the day. And one of their ladies is having a hard time with the transition on the sled. And as she was unable to get the hooks correct, Crash has now opened up basically half of a pull or 10 yards distance lead just in the transition. As you're talking about, Souza, those details can play a big factor here, because as that was happening and Camo was struggling with the transition, both BRRH and Apex Performance Black have caught up with them, not to mention Predators. So now you have Crash and then 4 teams all within 1 sled length for the next spot in this second part of the 2-part sport event this morning.
I will say there's a really cool visual aspect to this event too. You guys can probably see it at home on the far side when all of them are leaned in and pulling all these ropes coming across and all the athletes yanking on at the same time. It's like a huge game of tug of war happening right now.
So CrossFit Crash last in the first part of this 2-part sport event, leading the second part. This is their last pull. We have 2.5 minutes to the cap. Everyone's going to finish this under the cap, just like they did in the first part. The question is, in what order? Crash is leading, but the team from Camo is closing on them after a really smooth transition.
Wow. Look at lane 6. I think that wall is playing a factor with that sled. It looked like there was an uneven pull, and that was costly for them.
And Camo goes outside their lane, so they have to go make an adjustment. That's going to mean that Crash is going to take the second 50 points here. 2 minutes to the time cap. Mad dash to the finish. Camo's going to go 1 and then 2 on these 2 sport events. They'll beat BRRH on both of them. The question is by how much? And in a very close race, BRRH is going to edge out Apex Performance Black by 2 seconds. So Apex Performance Black not doing what Camo was hoping they would, unable to squeeze in between BRRH and Camo. So Camo goes 1 and 2. BRH goes 2 and 3. Crash goes 6 and 1. Apex Performance Black in the middle of both. So Camo will close the gap, but it's likely going to leave them in a spot where they still need help if they want to take the outright win from BRH. They will have a tiebreaker in any instance with already 3 event wins and BRH having 0. So if that's able to happen, they'd win on a tiebreak. But going into the final, we can expect for Camo to ultimately catch that Blue City team. They'll need to win and get some help.
Incredible.
That's going to do it for the teams. We have a really quick turnaround. We're going to head to the other competition floor for the Masters women, who are going to take on a pretty long chipper. 25-minute time cap on that one. We're going to see a lot of that today. Our flow is going to go back over there to watch the Masters, men, women, and then men do this. We'll be back, or we'll stay on the main floor for the team finale, and then we'll be back on the turf later today.
All right, so we're going to keep this stream up, and then we'll switch over and go. And RB, yes, this is all of JR's equipment here at Crash. It is not borrowed, none of it. At least to my knowledge, it's all his. Okay, yeah, you can plug that, and then we'll plug it on the other side.
Unplug that.
Wait, why are you muted? Unmute. Click out of that, unmute, and reset.
All right. So no one heard any of that.
No, now we're good. Back in action.
Great. Well, you guys got to we did a little transition back on the main floor. Team event 5 done. We'll have those leaderboards updated for you. Masters women kicking things off this morning. We've been doing Masters women straight into Elite women. Today is going to be a little different. We're going to do all of the Masters divisions this morning. So it'll be Masters women directly into Masters men. Coming into the day for the Masters women, Caroline Klutz has a 120-point lead. She's well cleared, having won 3 of the 4 tests so far and taking a third on the other one. Mackenzie Riley has a second place position. She's moved up from yesterday, 266 points. Hannah Oakley in third at 235. Pretty, still a lot to play for there, and they've had a bit of a back and forth throughout. Holly Henderson is in the 4 spot. She's at 185. Haley Maria 177. So a little bit of a battle there. Those 2 women in this event will be jockeying for position to try to get into the final heat for the final event later today. There are still 3 scored events remaining on day 3 for all of the individual divisions. They've only had 400 points available so far. So we still have about 40% of the score remaining points available. A lot to play for. And we're going to get started here in 10 seconds, right on time, as everything has been this weekend. Heat 1 Lane 2 is going to be on the far right side of your screen, Jamie Latimer. Lane 3, Haley Murillo. Lane 4, Stacey Marino. And lane 5, Amy Fritt. The task at hand is the 100s chipper.
And on that trapeze bar, have we seen that in competition before?
No. This is a brand new to any kind of CrossFit competition that I've ever been exposed to. If you've been around for a long time like Matt Souza has, and you might remember the 2011 Regionals 100 chipper, which is what this was derived from. JR's up the ante, as he has with every test for the individuals this week. This one is 100 toes to bar on the trapeze bar, which you see there. Souza and I both messed around on it. We're going to give you some insight into what that feels like in a minute. After this, they'll advance to 100 dual kettlebell hang snatches, 100 box jump overs, and then finish with 100 dual kettlebell squats. They have 25 minutes to accomplish the task. Souza, you were playing around on that thing last night. Tell these people kind of what you experienced relative to, a regular bar, playing on the rings, whatever you thought.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty equivalent to going through do like dips on a bar versus dips on a ring, right? It's so much more dynamic, so there's a lot more control involved. If your hip starts to get swinging too much out of control, the straps, which are relatively tall, I'd say 6 feet up to the roof there. Once those get swinging, it's hard to get back under control. The toe to bar out of all the movements was the smoothest one, I would say. But yeah, the rest of them make it tough. It's very dynamic compared to a regular pull bar.
I did 8 sets of 10 of these the other day as part of an EMOM, and by the third round, I figured out kind of 2 things. One was I'm not able to re-grip as I would on a normal bar in the middle of a set of toes to bar or chest to bar pull-ups. So when my grips felt like it was slipping more towards my fingers, pretty much my option was just to come down. Secondly, it was like you said, the toes to bar can be fairly rhythmic, and Amy Fritt in the pink hat and shorts on the left side of your screen is more or less doing what I found myself end up doing, which was trying to keep the bar relatively still and letting the momentum from my legs falling do most of the work, and then just a little snap back up with the core to finish the rep. Now, I was only doing sets of 10. This is a set of 100 consecutive to start things off.
And I would say this is kind of one of those implements that when you start, you might do 5 or so reps and go, that's not bad at all. But as you start to accumulate more reps and fatigue starts to set in, that strap and the swing of that bar becomes much, much more relevant.
I'm not sure if Hiller's actually on with us or not right now, but I think he did this workout this morning.
I don't
He made
think
it
you can hear us.
pretty far into the squats at the end. 25-minute time cap. So if you want to finish, you need to have 6 minutes and 15 seconds at each of the 4 stations. The women are at the 3-minute mark right now. Some of the stations will take longer than others. Most of the women still looking pretty steady on the toes to bar.
These ladies have been working really hard all weekend. And you know what else is another factor here? And this might just be me and something what I think of. But when you have a field that's this small, that's only 4 ladies out on this heat right now, you feel like the pressure is tenfold, right? Because you could very quickly become the last one in the heat, and mentally that starts to screw with you as you continue on with the workout. As opposed to if you had a field of 10 or so, you're going to have more people that are going to fall to the back versus in the front.
Talked to Mackenzie Riley. She'll be coming up in the next heat. She was the only Masters athlete I ran into before we started the team's coverage this morning, and she did mention that 100 toes to bar seems a little daunting after the 120 GHD sit-ups on Friday. And JR is known for having a very high demand on the midline trunk, flexion, and extension in his competitions. He values it in his training in general for himself and his affiliate, and that usually shows in the programming at the competitive level as well.
Ryan, that point you made earlier about not being able to re-grip because of the swing of the trapeze bar, you could see that coming into effect now as they're dropping off more, which is telling me that grip is probably going to be the sneaky factor in this workout for these ladies.
And most of the time that JR programs competitions, you can look at one workout and say, wow, that is quite specifically a grip test. Since he's reprogrammed a bunch of tests from prior regionals and games, it might not be that obvious where that is. It's right here in the first 200 reps of this workout, because Jamie Latimer, first one off of the toes to bar, was starting on the second movement, 100 dual kettlebell hang snatch. You can flash that grip at the top, But that's only for a microsecond. You got to re-grip it confidently to go cycle back into every single rep. So 200 straight reps with the grip to start things off on event 5 this morning.
Yeah, that's going to be a major factor.
Just past the 5-minute mark, Latimer leading the way. Amy Fritt has also joined her there. See if we can get Hiller to adjust the camera. There he goes.
And he woke up. All right, we got it.
It's daytime. He's not necessarily a morning person. He's very good in the middle of the night. Closest to us in the pink is Amy Fritt. She was second to the kettlebells. In the all black in the middle of the floor is Haley Murillo. She was third to the kettlebells. Jamie Latimer on the far side of the screen in the white and gold, advancing the kettlebells first. She was the first one done with the toaster bar. And Stacey Marino coming in the screen now in the gray sports bra and pants. You see the what's the word, Susan? There's a lot of numbers on the floor.
Yes, yeah. As you look across, it definitely gives a nice visual to it, but there is a lot of numbers across that floor.
It looks like one of the 4s there. Oh, that's a piece of chalk. I was going to say, I thought one of the 4s might be peeling up. If any of the numbers are peeling up off the floor, those are the ones Tyler Watkins helped with.
That was exactly what I was going to say. Poor guy.
He also is he's Tyler.
Those shirts look awesome.
You may have seen him coming behind us with barely an excuse for shorts on. 3 of the 4 women have advanced to the 40. The second set of 20 as they're chipping the weight towards 40. So the number on the floor is the number of reps that they're working towards in that section. So Stacey Marino working to 20. Once she gets to 20, she'll move it forward to the 40. The other 3 women working to 40. Once they get to 40, as Jamie Latimer just says, she'll advance to 60. They'll do that until they get to 100, which you can see there in the middle of the floor just past the Go Wad mobility. And you see the box waiting for them. The third implement is 100 box jump overs, forced step down.
Jamie looks confident in this heat here. It looks like she's almost taking a little bit of a risk as she went through those toes bar quickly. And you saw as she completed that last set of the kettlebell hang snatches, she actually glanced over at the rest of the field and charged pretty quickly to pick them right back up. I hope that pays off for her.
Yeah, Jamie is, if you haven't been with us this weekend, she is just coming off a win at the Masters Fitness Championship. She knew coming down here that there were going to be some elements to JR's programming that were going to be new to her. Through 4 events yesterday, she had actually technically PR'd in all 4 events. She had never done a pegboarding competition before. She'd never done a flip sledding competition before. She'd never done any of the handstand walking obstacles, so that could technically count as 3 PRs. And she PR'd her thruster at 165 during the thruster ladder and hit it for 2.
It was a good birthday.
I don't think she's ever done a trapeze bar in competition, so we're going to count it as 5 for 5 PRs for Jamie Latimer here at Crucible.
And again, another thing I'd like to point out is just how well run this competition is at this level and how hard JR and team is working here. I mean, all day competition just to stay late through the night to put all these numbers down on the floor, clean the facility, and prepare it for today. It's just been an incredible production so far.
Got a little bit more time in this one than we have in some of the others. Haley Murillo in this heat, we've mentioned that she's competed in CrossFit competitions, regionals, etc. Didn't get to it yesterday, but the event for Snatch Ladder, she was in the California Regional that year in 2016. Placed 32nd there that year, or on that event that year.
And it looks now that Haley may have started to close that gap between her and Jamie a little bit there relative to the other ladies on the field.
Jamie looks like she's in the final section of 100. Haley has passed Amy Fritt, is trying to close in on Latimer, as you say. Marino also has passed Fritt. Fritt being fantastic at the gymnastics, the winner of the handstand obstacle yesterday. By far her best event finish so far. There is a lot of gymnastics coming up later today in the form of ring muscle-ups and handstand push-ups with a deficit. So Amy Fritt could be, even though she's not in that podium conversation on the total points, her her performances on some of these tests could greatly affect the scoring system and could impact those close races we see between Riley and Oakley for second and third, and Henderson and Murillo for fourth and fifth. Latimer and Murillo working on their last set of 20 here with the snatches. Marino and Fritt both somewhere about 20 reps behind that. Hand in the air for Latimer. One more rep to go. She'll set the kettlebells down and advance to the box. The floor on the other side is very similar. It again progresses 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, and she'll advance the box every 20. We've just passed the 10.5-minute mark of the 25-minute time cap. So in terms of reps, she's on pace to finish. The cycle rate of the box jump overs is probably the slowest cycle rate per rep we'll see, but the dual kettlebell squats at the end, you can knock out sets of 20 fairly quickly on those. Murillo joining Latimer on the box jump overs, about 30 seconds behind her or so.
But she's flipping along quite well on those.
Yeah. Landing low, staying low. Both women are doing that. We may see a few different varieties of box jump over, not just athlete to athlete, but possibly even some athletes changing the way that they go about doing those. A set of 100 is a very big number to do consecutively, and different techniques can tax different muscle groups specifically. We've even seen athletes do some different variations of ski or GHD sit-up in previous days of competition within the same set or set to set for that same reason. And look at that, only one rep separating Murillo and Latimer at this point, and you would have to expect with 80 more reps on this implement to go that Murillo is likely to take over the lead. Marino and go ahead.
I was going to say, so after these 100 box jumps here, they are going to be doing 100 kettlebell squats, right?
Correct. And when you think about the way that they're landing in that bottom of a squat position, the grip component of this is in the past.
Yep.
You do have to hold the kettlebells, obviously, for the squat, but you can rest them somewhat on your shoulders, and it's not that taxing on the grip. The legs turn to take over here with 100 box jump overs, followed by 100 squats to close things out in this 4-part chip. Marino finishing up with hers kettlebells and figuring out how to go about these box jump overs. So Fritt, who is first to the kettlebells, is going to be last off the kettlebells. Very good with the body weight stuff. We'll see if she can make a similar move on the box jump overs once she gets there.
And we just saw Haley overtake Jamie now by 1 rep ahead.
Both Murillo and Latimer are working on the middle of 5 sections of 20 for the box jump over. Must step down on every rep. Stacey Marino working on the set of 20, opening set there, and Amy Fritt working on her closing set of 20 for the kettlebells. This is the first heat of 2 for Masters women on day 3 of competition here in Spartan. Murillo in all black, moving her box forward again, 1 rep ahead of Latimer. Latimer hanging tough here, though. She's a competitor, fighter to the end. At the Masters Fitness Championship, she was in a position to give away the lead on the final test with a lunge, only a kettlebell lunge remaining. She put the pedal to the metal, passed an athlete who was about to middle her and her closest competitor by the last 2 steps. And that was the difference between winning and second place over there. So when she sees someone come up like Haley has on her here, her mentality as an athlete is that's when she digs. So even though Haley closed the gap and then took the lead, she didn't establish any further distance between her and Jamie in that middle portion to get to 60. And right now, Jamie's cycle speed actually looks to be about a quarter of a rep faster than Maria. Maria's stopping to adjust her hair, in fact, and that's going to give Jamie a chance to close the gap and maybe even take back the lead.
It definitely looks like Jamie has picked up that cycle rate, and she has passed her now.
So a back and forth battle here. Murillo had a 1-rep lead. Latimer now takes that title herself. She has a 1-rep lead with 20 box jump overs to go. They'll head back to their kettlebells And then they'll be counting down 180, 60, 40, 20 as the reps remaining to move the kettlebells back to where they originally started. So that'll be the flow for the last 100 reps. You see Amy Fritt in the pink has gotten to her box jump overs and made quick work of the first 20, and Marino still chipping away at the middle set as she works towards 60 reps.
Just over 15 minutes with a 25-minute time cap in this workout. So about 10 more minutes here to finish these and complete their kettlebell squats.
And JR and I talked about the time cap for this one many times to try to figure out what was appropriate. We did want a majority of the athletes to do all the work. I think that that's likely to happen with the 25-minute cap. We know that there are going to be times under 20 minutes and in some cases minutes under 20 minutes. Latimer done with the box jump overs first. She takes a long pause to get a drink, chalk, and belt. And in that time, Haley Murillo already has the kettlebells up and is 3 and now 4 squats done before Latimer gets him off the ground. So a 4 squat lead for Murillo over Latimer with 100 reps remaining. These are dual kettlebell squats. They're going to be, the numbers will now be counting down. So they're working from 100 to 80, 60, 40, 20, etc. You might have noticed, by the way, the box jump over is 24 inches for the women. That will be the same for the men. Everyone's doing those. The kettlebells, not necessarily heavy, 2 by 26, but 100 reps times 2, the snatch and then the squat. And the weight starts to feel a little heavier towards the end of those sets.
And what do you think about the way they're holding those kettlebells? They're actually kind of, I don't know if you guys could see them at home from Hiller's angle here, but they're kind of resting on their back and they're just kind of hooked across. What do you think about that, Brian? Is that normal? I've never seen that before.
Yeah, so it's written as dual kettlebell squats. They're not a front rack squat. They're not an overhead squat. You just have to squat them. They need to be in a support position. What they've basically done here is made it into a back squat. So instead of having it in the front rack, they have them on the back of their shoulders, a more bigger, broader surface to support them, less demand on the bicep. Still is some demand on the arms for sure. And an interesting back and forth here. Mario's yet to put them down. Latimer went from 4 reps behind to 3 reps ahead in the first section, but she did take a break in the second section. So as they've been doing throughout this entire test, which we're at the 17 minute, 15 second mark, we could see a couple exchanges of leads even in this last section. As once again, Latimer steps forward, this time only 2 reps ahead of them.
And I think those box jumps now, but having to land in that squat and go, like you had said earlier, Brian, is playing a major role in these squats here. As very quickly they are slowing that cycle rate down quite a bit.
Had some comments there about Jamie being the oldest competitor in that field. That is, in fact, true. She's just turned 40. The next oldest woman in the field, Stacey Marino, 37, turning 38 this year. All of the women in the field, other than Latimer, will be eligible for the 35 to 39 division next season. She'll age up. She was 17th in the age group semifinals this year as a 39-year-old in that 35 to 39 division. Very impressive. It's very difficult to compete at the upper age limits of your respective masters bracket. Latimer opening up a bigger lead against Murillo now. She's going to have at least 5 reps in the tank before Murillo steps forward. Maybe more than that, in fact. 7 or 8 reps in the tank. She has taken 1 break with the kettlebells. Murillo yet to set them down, but her cycle rate is slow, meaning the time under tension is high. Latimer taking another break here. I'm guessing that was at the 10 rep mark and that she's probably going to, and Murillo has the kettlebells down. I'm guessing that Latimer's approach here is going to be, once I pick these up, I don't put them down again. She should have 30 reps to go, 10 here, step forward, 20 more. We're about at the 19-minute mark. There's still 1 more heat of Masters women to go. So she's likely going to set the time to beat, but she's going to be trying to look to have her first finish of the weekend inside the top half of this field. She's just been in that 5th and 6th spot on every test so far. Good start to day number 3 for Latimer. Looks like it's going to get enough for the heat win. We'll, of course, have to wait and see how it holds up against the second heat. Murillo with the kettlebells down again, and that big, long set that she took early on these starting to wear on Murillo. Stacey Marino and Amy Fritt have both made the way to the kettlebells. Marino with about a 30-rep lead over Fritt in that regard. And look for the judge's hand in the air, and there it is. 5 reps to go for Latimer. She is going to set the time to beat. It's going to be underneath 20 minutes. 1 rep to go. 19:47 for Jamie Latimer. Heat win and a great start to this day for her. Haley Murillo in her last set at 20 squats as we tick past the 20-minute mark. 19:47 the time from Latimer.
Jamie looks to be in some pain over there. If you could see, somebody is stripping off her knee
That's our
sleeves.
coach, yeah.
Yeah, her
Kristen.
coach is stripping off her knee sleeves, and her legs look like they're shaking
Last
a little
rep
bit.
for Murillo. 20:31 for Haley Murillo, and she'll finish well underneath the cap on test 5 here Sunday morning. So 1 Latimer, 2 Murillo in this heat. Stacy Marino about at the halfway, well, less than that, 40 reps remaining for her. 4 minutes to get those reps done. Should not be an issue in that regard. Amy Fritt working on the first set of 20.
Look at the way Amy's got the kettlebells up on her shoulders, almost reminiscent of the front rack position, but sitting a little further back, as opposed to Stacy had them like the other 2 ladies where they're kind of hanging across the back. Do you think the fatigue in the arms is going to play much of a factor in either of those positions, the way Amy has it or the other 3 ladies?
I think you're definitely, the arm fatigue is definitely going to set in regardless of what you do. You know, when I have a single dumbbell squats or step ups, I often try to position it where I can hold with one arm and then I can switch to the other arm when my arm fatigues, because usually I can maintain the cadence with my legs. It's usually light enough with 1 dumbbell. But in this case, you have to hold 2, so both arms need to be engaged the entire time. Andrew, earlier today, as I mentioned, Andrew Hiller was doing this workout, and he did a combo hold where he would drape one and then get the other in that position that Amy has, and then he would kind of switch them. And I think that similarly to what we were talking about when the box jumps, if you change your technique a little bit throughout the rep, you can switch which muscles are doing a majority of the work. So we'll see if anyone tries something like that, but I believe that's what Hiller was doing this morning. Marino in her final 20 reps here on the squats with less than 3 minutes to go. Amy Fritt has made some big progress here, and she's into the middle set of 20. Marino setting them down with less than 20 reps to go. Unless you don't know, she must have finished. Or she's done at about the 22:20 mark.
Yeah, she definitely does not look as fatigued as the other 2 ladies that went. Earlier, I talked about the smaller heat and that playing a factor. You think once they kind of separated as the way they did, they just kind of settled into those paces and didn't push these last 2 ladies here?
Probably, yeah, getting comfortable, figuring out, okay, we're in this now, we're doing this. Susan, give me 1 second. I'm just going to go do one thing. Bring in Amy Fritt for us.
So Amy's finished up here. And earlier, I was saying about how with the smaller heat of only 4 ladies, at some point when the separation becomes pretty big between her and the rest of the field, I wonder if mentally she's just like fucked at that point. Like she's just like, okay, I'm just going to pack this in and kind of finish out at this pace here. That would be, at least for me personally, the tough part about a smaller field. So as I try to see across this field here, it looks like Amy is picking the kettlebells up for her 40 more reps. So she's got this. She'll advance up to 1 more space, and then she'll have her last 20. She's got about 1:15 left, so we'll see if she wants to make the push to finish this. Jamie up and moving around now, which is great. You can tell she really gave it her all in that last push to stay ahead of Haley to take this heat win. It's an awesome performance. Okay, so now we got about 45 seconds left. I'm guessing we're looking for the judge's hand there for her to advance here. I can't quite tell. Okay, so there we go. She advanced for her last 20. She's got 30 seconds. You hear a yell from the crowd as she's want to make the push to finish. And I will say this competition has been huge. We talk about that old community feel, like I think Sevan said there were vultures circling the dead when the other athletes came out. I agree with that, but one thing that has been awesome has been this crowd. they have been really loud for everybody finishing. We've seen a couple muscle up PRs in competition when people were PRing their thruster weights. I mean, the crowd is 100% in this competition with these athletes. And if you were around in the early days of the regionals, 2012, 2011, the crowd would often be the loudest for the last competitor, grinding it out and finishing across that field. And that is definitely the feeling here at Crash Crucible this weekend. And that sounded good. It sounded like I knew what I was talking about right there, didn't it?
I've been taking notes throughout the course of the weekend.
I've just been listening to you all weekend in my ear.
So quick turnaround here. The equipment team has already reset the floor on the other end of it as the women in Heat 1 for the Masters were finishing up their squats. These will be the top 4 women to start the day. We'll just review the overall leaderboard for those just joining us. Caroline Klutz, overall leader. She's going to be in lane number 3. She'll be wearing the white tank top leader jersey with the blue pants and white shoes. She's got 385 points. She's had 3 first place finishes and a third, and some of those finishes were by significant margins. Her scores have been very competitive relative to the elite individual women. I think that she would be the overall leader even if she were in that division. So commanding lead for Klutz. Close races for 2, 3, 4, and 5. Mackenzie Riley comes in second place. She'll be in lane number 4. She's got about a 30-point lead over Hannah Oakley. Hannah will be in lane number 2. That'll be on the right side of your screen. She'll be wearing a tie-dye Crash t-shirt and some purple leggings. And then the fourth, the final athlete in the heat, Holly Henderson. She'll be in lane number 5, closest to you guys on the screen, and she only has an 8-point lead over Murillo. Murillo just took second place to Jamie Latimer in the previous heat. Latimer has that time to beat, 1947. Murillo finishing about 45 seconds later at 20:31. That's a long time from now, so we'll keep those times in the back of our mind. There's a lot of work to be done prior to that, and it all starts with 100 reps on the swinging trapeze bar of a toes to bar, which Souza messed around with last night. And if you missed it in the first heat, he's going to give us a little insight into what it's like to be swinging around on that bar.
Yeah, it takes a lot more control because that bar moves. You can't push away from it like you would a normal pull-up bar in a fixed location. So as Brian and I were talking about that last heat, Brian pointed out he had done several more reps on that than I have, and grip was a factor because normally if you have the fixed pull-up bar, you can kind of readjust your grip, pop up off the bar for a second, choke up more onto it, and then continue on. With the trapeze bar, that's not possible. If you go to do that, you could slip off, or it's just going to move and you're not going to be able to get that regrip. So these first 2 elements here, the trapeze bar, toe to bar, and then our hang kettlebell snatches are definitely going to be major factors on the grip.
Andrew Hill are working multiple camera angles right now. We're going to go get an adjustment so we can get the 4th athlete in the heat in frame here. They have 100 consecutive reps on the toes to bar, and there we go. So left to right on your screen, Holly Henderson in the blue and black, Mackenzie Riley in the white with the shorts, Caroline Klutz with the white and the pants, and the far right side of your screen in the tie-dye and leggings, Hannah Oakley. Big chunks of reps for the women here to start. The sets will probably get a little bit smaller as we go. As Susan said, the grip will be somewhat of a factor on the first part of this. After the 100 toes to bar, they go to 100 dual kettlebell hang snatches. The kettlebells aren't super heavy, 26 pounds each, but 100 reps hanging and then 100 reps with the snatch. The grip definitely starts to add up. Miss Sloppy in the chat asking if it was easy to stay on for long sets on the trapeze bar. I would say that from you can get I think you can do big sets on the trapeze bar relative to the static bar if you have a really strong grip position. But if that grip starts to slip at all, there's not a real good opportunity to kind of come off the bar and re-grip it, and that's when you'll see them break. it's also 100 in a row. I know that some of the athletes in the individual field I talked to had intentions of not necessarily going for big sets, but just going for consistent sets across, and not just to manage the grip, but also to manage the heart rate. It's a nearly 20-minute workout for most of the athletes, and so you don't want to stay on there and allow the heart rate to spike too much early on in this one.
And jumping on and off that bar is difficult to get that grip. So you're going to want to hang on for a little bit more of a larger sets as opposed to jumping up and doing quick, twosies and threesies, which I don't think many of these ladies here will be doing that. But going back and forth to do that, you want to hang on for bigger sets. Carl said, "Isn't it similar to toes to rings?" And I would say, yeah, it is. It is very similar to that in the sense of the swing and the movement and being able to get your feet up there. It's almost a little bit easier in the sense of closing the gap between the toes to the bar because the bar moves. So it's not as dominant on your lats, but I imagine as these reps continue to build up here, it plays a little bit more factor on the hip flexors and the core, which matter for the other three movements coming up.
And when I did these a couple of days ago, I didn't notice a tremendous amount of midline fatigue while doing it. But the next day, I definitely felt it. These ladies have already done, all the athletes have already done 120 GHD sit-ups, in competition 2 days ago. The midline definitely is going to be taxed over the course of the weekend here. And even if they're not necessarily feeling it, the compounding effect is going to add up in terms of midline demand over the course of the weekend. Caroline Klutz, first off the rig, and she's heading to the kettlebells for the 100 set of dual kettlebell snatches with a pair of 26s. Both Riley and Oakley are going to be within 10 reps of her and within about 2 reps of each other as they head down the floor. And Caroline Klutz, for the most part, has been ahead of the field here in every regard. But Oakley and Riley are battling for the other 2 spots on the podium. And so we'll probably be a little bit interested to see if they have somewhat of a back and forth affair on this one, like we saw from Latimer and Murillo in heat number 1.
With this high rep count workout, there's plenty of room for a lot of lead changes here. But I think you said it. Look at that. Caroline keeps the kettlebells on her shoulders and goes right into the next one. Doesn't even take a break for a minute. She is cruising. That cycle rate looks really well on her. She looks really comfortable as well.
Yeah, and that can be a little bit of a psychological tactic that coaches often will encourage their athletes to do in a close race. If you're close to someone and you're advancing to the next section or a next movement, if you go and get a couple reps, if you jump up to the bar, if you do a couple of cleans, whatever it is, right away, and your opponent was thinking about taking a break, suddenly they have to reevaluate. And Klutz, in that regard, only did 2 in that next section, but it was enough to maybe send a little bit of a message. Mackenzie Riley, however, has caught up to the same section as her and moved ahead of Hannah Oakley, who had come off of the trapeze bar prior to her. So right now it's Klutz, Riley, Oakley, and then Henderson, all 4 in the same section. Hand up for Klutz, but the kettlebells are on the ground as Riley continues to cycle reps on the snatch.
And there it is. There's the hand up for Mackenzie's judge. So she's 4 reps behind now and closing that distance quickly.
Numbers on the floor, very helpful in terms of the rep count. So they'll be counting up to 100 in sets of 20. The number beneath their feet is the number that they need to achieve in that section before they can move forward. So Klutz and Riley both working towards 60. Henderson and Oakley both working towards 40. Once they get to 100 and finish the reps there, they'll advance to the box for 100 box jump overs.
I like that Mackenzie's pushing Caroline a little bit today in this event. We have not seen that yet. Usually she's just created distance to the field and the other ladies have never had a chance to catch up. But it looks like now we're seeing some pressure being put on her. Stuck in her seat there.
Klutz continuing to maintain a slight lead over Riley. Riley advancing to join her in the fourth of 5 sections of 20.
Turned on? We're switching it up here for a second. Negative. Oh, there it is. We got it. Sorry about that, guys. We're just trying to figure out our power cord situation. Having to run from the other location where we're at the turf to here. It's a little chaotic with not much turnaround time between these events. JR keeps it tight. You know what I mean? Keeps it tight.
Klutz and Riley, 1 and 2. Henderson, left side of your screen, currently 4th as Oakley moves forward on the far side of the screen. Left to right is Henderson, Riley, Klutz, and then Hannah Oakley. Klutz comes in as a leader today. Riley in the second place position spot, trying to fend off Hannah Oakley, who was in second place yesterday. Klutz steps forward to the last section. Riley steps forward to the last section. Both women with 20 reps to go. And for the first time, Mackenzie Riley has the lead in this one. She's got a 1-rep lead over Klutz, but she'll set the kettlebells down as Klutz continues to cycle through. Henderson picks them up. Oakley picks them up, but both of them working through the set as they advance towards 80 reps. Once finished, the kettlebell snatches will be at the halfway point of this workout in terms of volume. The time cap is 25 minutes. We're right now at 9 minutes and 20 seconds. Latimer had made this transition right about the 9:45 mark. So on pace here with what Latimer and Maria were doing for the most part, are Klutz and Riley. A lot of opportunity for the cycle rate on the box jump overs to be a little bit of a separator. It's a slower movement. If you're a quarter of a rep faster for 100 reps, that's still 25 seconds that you can make up. With hands in the air, for Riley and Klutz, they both finish within 2 seconds of each other and within 10 seconds of Latimer's split time, and they're up and over for the first rep at the same time. The flow will be the same on the box as it was for the kettlebell snatches. Every 20 reps, they'll move it forward, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, before heading back to the kettlebells for the final 100 reps of this event, which will be the same kettlebells for 100 squats.
And this is shaping out to be awesome. I hope those two stay tight this whole last portion of this event and have to just grind it out in those last 40 squats or so. It'll make for a very exciting finish between these two.
Yeah, we had a very similar situation with Latimer and Murillo in heat number 1. Jamie Latimer ultimately able to set that early time to beat, which was 19:47. These women are at the 10:47 mark right now as they advance after the first 20 box jump over. So 8 minutes, excuse me, until that one. Oh, 9 minutes until that.
I'm curious to see what happens with the men on that 30-inch box jump. Are they going to hit their head on that trapeze bar? Will that play a factor? I mean, you guys probably can see it at home, but obviously the ladies are a little bit shorter, kind of landing in that squat, and there's about a 2-foot clearance or so. So with our guys on a slightly taller box and being slightly taller themselves,
well, they will have the same height box. Everyone's doing the 24s.
Everybody's doing the 24s. I love the equality here at JR's event. I mean, that is so progressive. I just another impressive point here at Crucible.
They're not doing the same weight on the kettlebells, though. Men will have 35s for the kettlebells.
I take that back. No, I'm just kidding.
What are you doing, JR? Klutz has regained the lead over Riley, as you see her about 4 reps into the set of 60. Yeah, of course. Klutz has regained the lead over Riley. Oakley has extended her lead over Henderson. So it's Klutz, Riley, Oakley, Henderson in this heat. Those are also the positions of the 4 women coming into the day on the overall leaderboard. It's performance-based scoring system, so there's a lot more opportunity for big jumps on the leaderboard if you can have a great performance relative to your closest competitor. Klutz has a commanding lead overall on the competition. Riley and Oakley within 30 points of each other in a battle for second and third. Riley currently holding that edge and leading Oakley in this one. There are still 200 points remaining after this later today, and those two events have a high volume ring muscle ups and a high volume of parallel handstand push-ups. With that much gymnastics looming later on today, and we know how much of a sticking point those two things in particular can be, for Oakley, she just wants to stay as close to Riley as she can there and hope that Riley struggles with one of those implements later today. If that's the case, if you're a Hannah Oakley fan, and that's the case, she definitely still has room to overtake her for second in terms of the total points available today. Klutz has advanced her box into the final section. She has less than 20 reps to go. 5 more reps in the round of 80. We're getting towards 80 reps for Riley, so she's in the last quarter of her box jump overs. She was rep for rep with Klutz getting here. She's given away about 10 reps to this point. She still has about a 20 rep lead over Oakley, who's got about a 15 rep lead over Henderson.
Mackenzie's starting to look a little laboring now. Do you think that she kind of took a risk early on to keep up with Caroline, and that may be a factor in this last portion for her here?
Potentially. There's also, she may have just realized at some point that I can't keep up with her on the box, and my only chance is on the squats. Or she might be thinking, you know what, if she's 120 points ahead of me anyway, I need to stay ahead of Oakley, and if I race her, I could be risking, giving up potentially that. I think that she's probably just managing these to try to get some good sets of squats out of the way early on. She's got less than 5 reps to go. She's looking at the clock. She's still moving well. It's underneath the 15-second mark, that 15-minute mark. 5 seconds to go to that 15-minute mark. Riley is done as Klutz is cruising through her first set of 20. All of them currently chasing the time of 19:47 set by Jamie Latimer in the first heat. See a question in the comments there from Jamie. Came into the day in 7th place. Definitely within touching distance of Stacy Marino. There's kind of these 2-person races throughout the leaderboard in this division. It's a relatively small division, 8 athletes, relatively talented division though. Pretty good accomplishments for most of the women in this field. Klutz working on her second set of 20 in squats. Riley working on her first set of 20 on the left side of the screen there. In the background, farthest away from us, Hannah Oakley is on her final set of 20 box jump overs. And just off camera on the left, Holly Henderson is working on her second to last set of box jump overs. We're at the 16-minute mark. 60 reps remaining for Klutz. She's got just under 4 minutes to get those done if she wants to take her 4th event win out of 5 events in the Masters Female Division so far. Both of the women using that kind of draping the kettlebells backwards over the shoulder technique, letting the weight rest primarily on the back side of their shoulders, big surface area there. It just is a kettlebell squat. So you could do a front squat, an overhead squat, any kind of squat you want, but this is probably going to be the least taxing, most efficient way to get big sets done with a fairly high cycle rate. Klutz sees the finish line, less than 40 to go. Mackenzie Riley about halfway through, and in the right side of the screen, Hannah Oakley is cycling her squats at a rate that we have not seen from anyone so far. That is very fast. She's about to do 20 reps. The judge is checking the depth there. She is getting below parallel, just barely, not doing any extra work than she needs.
And we haven't seen that grip yet. She literally just has the bottom of the kettlebell resting on the top of her shoulders, and her hands just kind of loosely holding them in place. Looks like she's almost squeezing the kettlebell against her head there.
And so that was a set of 20 squats done in about 30 seconds for Oakley, maybe 40 seconds. Very fast cycle right there. Not sure she can maintain that for 100, but knowing that this scoring system is the way it is, she doesn't have to beat Riley on this, but if a lot of time elapses between them, that's going to make that closing of the gap more difficult later this afternoon. So the strategy here might be to try to get as close to possible to Riley, even if she can't catch her. Last couple reps coming up for Klutz. We're just past the 18-minute mark. 18:03. Caroline Klutz is going to set the top time. The top score being one of the two data points that's relevant for performance-based scoring. It'll be that gap from her to the median score that will end up determining the points per rep, or second in this case, and the way that the rest of the points are distributed across the field. Mackenzie Riley is in her last 20 reps. She's at the 18:30 mark, a minute, 17 seconds to go to Latimer's time. So Riley in a great position here to take second overall in the event, second in the heat, and maintain second on the leaderboard.
One thing I'd like to point out, too, is when Caroline was on her last 40 reps, I don't know if you noticed, but when she brought the kettlebells up, she actually laced her fingers together behind them. And I realized that as she did that, I was like, oh, she's planning to go these next 40 without stopping.
19:03 for Riley, exactly 1 minute behind Klutz, 44 seconds ahead of Latimer. 40 reps to go for Oakley, and so it's looking pretty good for Mackenzie Riley in terms of extending that lead. Not only is the time drifting by, but Jamie Latimer has the opportunity to come in between them on the leaderboard. Holly Henderson, left side of your screen, has made her way to the final 100 reps. We're at the 19:40 mark, 7 seconds until Latimer's time. So Latimer looking to take third place on this one. That'll be her best event finish relative to the field. The previous best had been a 5th place on event 2. These longer time domain workouts are proving to be in the wheelhouse of Jamie Latimer. Last 20 reps for Hannah Oakley. We're just at the 20-minute mark. The next score on the board is Haley Murillo at 20:31. Likely going to be pretty close between Murillo and Oakley. They will be the 4th and 5th place finishers. So that time of about 20:30 is likely to be your median time, or pretty close to it, relative to Caroline Klutz's time of 18:03. It's about 2.5 minutes separation there. And that means that 2.5 minutes on the other side, which would put us at the 23-minute mark, is where Holly Henderson's going to have to finish if she wants to score any points on this one. 20:32, literally 1 second apart. It's unofficial relative to Murillo. So what I just said about the time difference there, 2.5 minutes from the best score to the median score, that's going to be the gap from 100 to 50 points on the leaderboard. 2.5 minutes from the median score to the, if you add on top of that, so in this case, 20.5 minutes plus 2.5 minutes gets 23 minutes, is the time that Henderson has to finish under if she wants to get any points. She's got 40 reps to go. 21 minutes, 15 seconds, heavy laps on the clock.
To RB's point here, he said CrossFit would be smart to tour these events for ideas and support. And there is a representative from CrossFit here. Jen Green,
Director of Affiliates, not really on the games team, but she's in charge of the scoring here and can certainly relay information back to them. And RB, that is one of the things that I've been trying to do with this world tour that I've been on. And obviously, I'm working at these competitions and bringing coverage of them to the fans, for the athletes. But additionally, going and traveling around to these competitions, I have learned quite a bit. I definitely agree with you that there's a lot of value that can be had. There's good practices being done by many competitions around the world. A lot of these competitions have been existing for a lot longer than Crucible even. And absolutely, it's great if you can get out there and learn from some other people. Ask questions, have conversations, see what works, what hasn't worked, why they're doing certain things. And certainly JR has borrowed some ideas from events that he's attended and he's watched. In fact, I know that when he goes to competitions, a lot of times it is with that intent of gathering information and bringing best practices back here for the competitions that he runs. Holly Henderson in her last set of 20 squats. The time from Stacey Marino of 22:20 has passed by. 22:50 on the clock. Last couple reps for Henderson. Very fast cycle rate here. She's done at the 22:59 mark, so it's going to be very close to see whether she scores any points on the performance-based scoring system or not. But either way, all 8 women in the Masters have finished this event with 2 minutes to spare before the time cap and continue to have an incredible display of fitness amongst these 8 women. They're doing the exact same workouts as the elite field. So Caroline Klutz takes the event, 18:03. Mackenzie Riley second, 19:03. Jamie Latimer with her first top 3 finish in the division, 19:47 will be your top 3 for the Masters women. The floor will be reset for the Masters men. We have a change of order from yesterday where we're going to go teams, Masters women, Masters men. We'll come back to the teams after that, and the teams will be wrapping up their competition this morning. For this stream that we're on, Souza, I think we'll take it through the team finale, and then we'll switch over to the individual fields. We're going to run on time here, so we got a few minutes until the Masters men will start. We're not going to go anywhere as far as the stream is concerned, but I am going to run and use the restroom.
All right. I'll be here. It's interesting on my side, I can't actually see how many people are on, so I'm toggling back and forth between YouTube and this. At first, it looked like there was nobody watching. This will be something that we do in the future here. As you guys know, like each time we do one of these, we learn a lot with the live streaming. Our capability gets a little bit better each time. We learn a lot, and so we're really getting it dialed in. I mean, if you guys saw what we did over at Zelos Games last year in Las Vegas, compared to this, we were at least able to improve the quality of the stream quite a bit. And so as we continue to do this, we learn more and more. And yeah, the hope would be we'd have these kind of headsets floating around. And that way we would be able to check in with some of the athletes and do some of that stuff in the future. So stand by. What do we got here? Susan, let's talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict until Brian gets back. I mean, holy shit, that is something, huh? Man, I was watching some of that stuff last night. And, man, yeah. You guys see those protests in LA and stuff like that too? Crazy. But that's all I'm going to say about that. Extra sloppy. Trying to get me in trouble over here. Be my first and last day. Spiegel, Souza, don't worry. I won't. I don't have any confidence in any of the information I can bring to you guys on that subject whatsoever. So we're going to avoid that big time. Beaver's getting the Shadakin ready. What do you think he's doing? He's like ripping out toilets and sweeping up leaves or something. I don't know. But we sure do miss him here at the back end. Yeah, I also think, Amy, why the stream quality seems to be a little bit better in the morning is there's not a ton of people here yet. I think once the room really fills up, and this event has drawn quite a crowd, but once the event fills up and all the cell phones come off, I think that's when we start to see things bog down a little bit. For the most part, the computers and stuff are hardwired in. Same with Hiller's camera. The one that I'm usually on, the floating camera, is obviously not hardwired in. And it's interesting because it doesn't work. It works better on G5 than it does on Wi-Fi, and sometimes vice versa. So I've been trying to switch to bring you guys the best quality I can throughout the weekends. with the resources we got. And I will say that JR and his team here put a lot of time and effort into making sure that the internet capability was up to par with what we needed to make this successful, or as successful as we can. All right, Jeffrey Birchfield, he's doing his National Guard weekend commitments. Fair enough. All right, so it looks like the first heat of the Masters men just came out onto the floor here. They're getting ready to start in a couple of minutes. We do have a final leaderboard updated, but it just looks like a shitload of numbers to me. I can't make heads or tails of any of that stuff. That's above my pay grade.
What I missed, Souza?
Nothing really. Just me.
What have you informed them about relative to the competition? Nothing?
No. We talked about the event. We talked about our improvements on the stream quality here, what we hope to do in the future by being able to bring it. Somebody had wrote a comment, was like, and Hiller's standing by with Vladimir. And I said, yes, those are things that we hope to continue to do as we constantly evolve our capabilities on these broadcasts and live streams.
Did she come on? She came on here?
No.
Oh, okay. So
they tried to get me to talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't
We're
touch it.
talking about the competition. Masters men set to take on the 100s chipper. Throwback 2011 regionals. When we first saw a version of this. JR's rewritten it a little bit. Actually, this is one of the events this weekend that underwent the most amount of changes. A lot of testing went into this, not just to determine the order, but also what movements to include. We debated a few different things. JR has a really good testing pool of athletes that he's able to draw on, and he certainly takes advantage of that. What we've settled on is 100 toes to bar on the swinging trapeze bar, 100 dual kettlebell snatch. The men have a pair of 35-pound kettlebells, 100 box jump overs, 24 inches across the board, men, women, masters, all alike, and then 100 dual kettlebell squats with the same weights, a pair of 35s for the gentlemen. We have a full heat here, 2 full heats of 6 for the masters men. On your screen, from right to left, lane number 1, no shirt on the far right side, is Brent Abercrombie. Lane 2, in the green t-shirt, black shorts, Eamon Coyne. Lane 3, the pink socks and the blue attire, Travis Flanagan. Lane 4, in the all black, Will Abercrombie. Lane 5, green top and blue tie-dye shorts, Corey Bromery. And in lane 6, in the red, is Colin Leonard. Colin Leonard, in addition to competing here in the Masters division, actually coaches a couple of the younger athletes that are competing in the individual division. So he's pulling double duty, competing and coaching. Lives about an hour away, big supporter of the CrossFit community here in this part of the country. Jeffrey Birchfield, yes, this is the first time that I know of that we've seen the trapeze bar used in the CrossFit competition. Both Matt and I have had a chance to just test it out a little bit. Talked about it previously, but Souza, what are the 2 things that you kind of would say are the most different about this bar compared to a regular toes bar?
Yeah, I mean, the grip plays a huge factor in the swing of the bar, right? Like we were talking about earlier, you can't readjust your grip on the fly like you would normally kind of pop up and grip the bar a little bit more, and you cannot do that with this one. You have to come down, stand up, and reset. So as we've talked about in the earlier heats, grip is definitely going to play a factor in these first two elements here, the trapeze bar, toe to bar, in the dual hang kettlebell snatches.
I see these comments about my bathroom break. They actually ran into the restroom, and a couple of the Masters athletes in this heat were also needing to use this. I let them all go ahead and had a conversation with one of the coaches, actually Jamie Latimer's coach, to see how she was feeling after that one. So although I was gone for a while, as usual, ran into some people along the way to have some conversations.
What's up? So Watkins did say the leaderboard was updated for the females there. It
The
turned it for me
Masters
to look
women?
at. The Masters, yeah. I do believe so.
All right, well, we're going to update you guys on where these guys are at, and then we'll get to the Masters women's updated results. So these guys come in 7 through 12 out of 12. Travis Flanagan in that 7th position at 168. Abercrombie 8th, Amy Coyne 9th, Brett Abercrombie, and Corey Leonard in order 7 through 12. Tyler Watkins of Performance-Based Scoring Heat 1 app has told us that the women's leaderboard is up to date. Let's take a look.
JR did not rent. As far as I know, I don't think he rented anything for this competition as far as equipment is considered. He has all of it here, and I will say this is like a CrossFit affiliate equipment heaven. There is like anything and everything you can imagine. If you're a CrossFit competitor and you are in the area, you need to be stopping in the CrossFit Crash.
Female Masters standings updated after event number 5. Caroline Klutz continues to maintain her lead. Mackenzie Riley extends her lead over Oakley in 2nd place. Oakley holding that down. Murillo has jumped Henderson, so Haley Murillo will move into the final heat later today in the 4th spot. Jamie Latimer has closed the gap to 1 point between her and Holly Henderson, so they're in a tight battle for 5th and 6th, and it's Stacey Marino and Amy Fritz. Those will be the standings for the Masters women going into the final events later today. There's a back-to-back 200 points up for grabs later, so a lot on the line still for every division this afternoon when we get to that finale. Masters men, in the meantime, heat 1 of 2, working on their first set, or the only set of 100 toes to bar in the first movement of a 4-part chipper. 400 total reps in this one, 25-minute time cap. The fastest time you saw from the women, 18:03, Caroline Klutz. Eventually, we'll see here who's going to be taking the lead, and it is Corey Bromery there. He's lost his shirt, blue shorts, moving forward. He'll be the first of these 6 men to get set on the dual kettlebell snatches, pair of 35-pound kettlebells for the men. Far side of the screen, Brett Abercrombie with no shirt. You saw him walk away. He'll be second to those kettlebells. So Bromery and Abercrombie lanes 5 and 1, early leaders in this one.
And it looks like the first couple of reps, Abercrombie was struggling to cycle those kettlebells. He seems to be in a much better rhythm now. We're gonna go ahead and get our camera angle adjusted so you folks at home can see our 2 leaders here. You see Abercrombie over there, Brian. It looks like he's I don't know if it's tougher for him with that cycle rate, if he doesn't have a rhythm, or if he's purposely moving a little slower to maintain heart rate there.
Who was that?
Abercrombie here over in the far left-hand side from us. You need me to fix it? She's probably afraid. Stand by.
Yeah, Susan's going to go take care of the camera over there. But Corey Bromery, Brent Abercrombie, then Travis Flanagan, first 3 to the kettlebells. Bromery and Abercrombie advancing out of their first set of 20 simultaneously. Flanagan working on that first set as Eamon Coyne joins him. Will Abercrombie, Colin Leonard still working on the toes to bar.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Second of 4 movements, 100 reps of each movement. Colin Leonard finishing up his toes to bar. The rest of the men chipping away at the dual kettlebell snatches, 35 pounds for kettlebells. Corey Bromery, left side of the screen with the belt and blue shorts, was the first man there. Far side of the floor with no shirt and black shorts, Will Abercrombie second. Travis Flanagan in the all blue and the pink socks was the third man there. Bromery continues to maintain his lead as he advances into the third section. On their way out, they're working towards the number on the floor. So once you get to 20, step forward. Once you get to 40, step forward, etc. Once you get to 100, kettlebells down, and you head to the box, where we'll have the same thing.
This is interesting. It looks like the transition from the top women in the last heat was at the 9-minute mark, as they went from the kettlebell snatches to the box jump overs. And we're about a minute or so away from that now. And it looks like our furthest male competitor is in his set of 60 on the numbers there. So they might be moving. Well, it might be a little too early to tell, but it seems like they're almost moving a little bit slower than the women, talking about the cycle rate of the double hang kettlebell snatch.
Yeah, so the extra work for the men is on the kettlebells. They weigh more than the women's did. The extra work for the women was on the box jump over. Everyone has a 24-inch box here. Brahmari advancing first to this round of 80. So he has 40 snatches to go, and he's about a minute, 20 seconds away from where the top women were finishing the middle, or the getting to the 200 rep mark in the total work. And we'll see if that extra time that they're apparently losing here in the first half is able to be made up on the back half. That the box jumps should be, in theory, easier for the men, as they're on average a little bit taller. And the squats also might be a place where they can make up a little bit of time relative to the women, although I think it's mostly going to come down to the box.
Plus, a great point is that Ulma is slowing down his cycle rate to control his heart rate, which is most likely jacked. Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. If it was purposely, like, you see him going up to the shoulder, then to the hip, and just staying smooth and consistent to keep that breathing under control, which is smart, because if you saw in those earlier two heats, the first 10 or so box jumps from the women after they finished the kettlebell snatches were definitely about just slowing down, catching their heart rate, finding that rhythm, and then we see him pick it up significantly into the 50-plus range after the box jumps there. Kevin, the floor layouts for all the events have been top-notch. Must be such a cool event for everyone to be competing at. Yeah, I mean, it really is. Every level of detail that you could think of here in terms of logistics and organization and everything in this event, JR has thought of it all. And him and the team here, especially the judges, all the volunteers, I mean, everybody has been working very hard. They're here very early in the morning getting it set up. They're here till late at night, cleaning it up, refreshing the floor for the next day. Yeah, kudos to JR and his team. Really well done stuff here.
Corey Brahmari in the final set of 20 there. We're at the 10:45 mark, so at least a minute behind the splits from the best women. Travis Flanagan advancing. He's passed by Brent Abercrombie. So it's Brahmari, Flanagan, and Abercrombie. All of the men working on these 100 dual kettlebell snatches. Brent Abercrombie does advance to that final section. So Brahmari, Flanagan, and Abercrombie each with 20 reps or less to go. They'll set the kettlebells down once they get to 100. Brahmari just off camera. They're taking a knee with less than 10 reps to go, I believe. Flanagan attempting to catch up to him. They'll have 100 box jump overs following this. Yeah, Bryson reminding us that from the toes to the bar into the kettlebell snatch, the grip is absolutely a factor. Thankfully, once you finish these, there's no grip required for the box jump overs and minimal needed for the squats relative to the snatches and the toes bar. Brahmari will maintain his lead. He's in the belt there, probably taking it off. Yep, for the box jump overs. He'll have 20 in each section. It's a forced step down, 24 inches for all divisions. They have, once again, working towards the number that's on the floor, 20 being the reps underneath his box there. And move the box away from the camera towards the bay door you guys see in the background.
These kettlebell snatches for these gentlemen look tough. I mean, it looked tough for the women, but we're seeing multiple guys on the floor take a knee mid-event, kind of look around. I even saw Abercrombie kind of shake his head. as he looked over across the lane, and he was ahead of the other gentleman here, and it looks like a couple of them now are closing that distance and even passing him up.
35-pound kettlebells for the men, Ross. You got 200 reps with him, so keeping it light, but the volume is high. Corey Bromry advancing into his second set of 20 box jump overs. Flanagan, middle of the floor, in the blue with pink socks there, second to the box. And on the far right side, no shirt, black shorts, Brent Abercrombie, third to the box. So Bromry, Flanagan, and Brent Abercrombie. Brent's brother Will in the all black has moved into the fourth position. Eamon Coyne on the right side of the screen in the green and black in the fourth round of 5 as he progresses through the kettlebell snatches on the left side of the screen. Colin Leonard has just also moved into that section. .5 minutes have passed by. 25-minute time cap on this one. All of the women finished underneath the time cap. Men on a slower pace here in Heat 1 for the Masters. We'll see whether we have our first time capped athlete in this one. We talked about it earlier. The intent with the time caps here, especially in this one, was that most of the people could do most of the work. It's obviously a lot of work, 400 reps. And even if you're slower than some of the top scores, which we expect to be well underneath 20 minutes, as Caroline Klutz was, we don't want you to be bailed out with a time cap. We want you to have to suffer through those squats at the end, or at least a majority of them. And so the time cap is longer than necessary for the best, but hopefully allows for a majority of athletes across all divisions to finish the work. Flanagan and Brent Abercrombie both advancing their box at a similar time. They're working on their second set of 20. Bromry continues to lead. Left side of the screen, no short blue shorts. Will Abercrombie, all black in the middle of the lane, is the fourth man to the box. Eamon Coyne with less than 20 snatches to go. Colin Leonard less than 40 snatches to go. We're about at the 15-minute mark, so time cap might become relevant for Coyne and Leonard here.
Now, was that a big factor going into testing this event? Because you had talked about that earlier, wanting to set a time cap that allowed maximum completion of this event for these athletes on this field. Interestingly enough, usually when this 100 things came out in regionals, you saw almost nobody finish these events, right? So was that taken into consideration at all? Did you speak with JR about that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if that was 12 years ago now, and, if you go back and look at some of the workouts in the regionals in the 2011 through 14 time period, I would say there was some aggressive stuff. Even in the open back then, there were some workouts that look on paper harder than many of the open workouts look now. And then, Dave Castro was in the process of really finding out what was possible for the best athletes in the world back then. And he was, learning as he went. He was the first person to ever try, and there were people like Rich Froning and Dan Bailey and Graham Holmberg and Josh Bridges on the men's side, and Annie Thorsdottir and Kristen Clever and Julie Fouché, Camila Buck-Besney on the women's side. They were pushing these boundaries, and he was kind of like doing a little back and forth dance with them. And so sometimes, yes, those regional workouts were very difficult and not many people would finish. Even though the athletes are continuing to get better, we have a lot more data now. We have a lot more athletes. Like I said, JR can draw on a big sample size of athletes just for testing, not just in his gym here. But as we mentioned yesterday, he had John Young test the thruster ladder. John Young might not be the optimal test athlete for this one, but there might be another person he knows who is. And so with that data that he was able to collect, I think he was looking for a different stimulus than Dave was maybe looking for 12 years ago. As we were talking there, Corey Bromry finishes up his 100 box jump overs at about the 16:45 mark. He's going to put the shirt back on. I kind of like this move. The kettlebells obviously would be slick against the sweat on his back. The shirt will serve as a friction where he can rest those kettlebells over top of him. He's going to take time and spin and put on the belt and the shirt, hopefully to get a big set underway. And with 8 minutes to go to the time cap, likely to be setting the time to beat here. He's been our leader throughout. Abercrombie on the far side of the screen, just pushing his box into the last section. And Flanagan never advanced his box to the last section. I'm not sure what happened there. with the judge. His judge is not telling him to turn the other way, so maybe he accidentally did 40 reps in the same section. I have to see if we can get some clarification on that. Either way, right now it's Brommery and then Flanagan working on the squats. Brommery with about a 10-rep lead. Both men draping the kettlebells over their shoulders. Brett Abercrombie, Will Abercrombie, Eamon Coyne in that order, chipping away on the 100 box jump overs, and Colin Leonard on the left side of the screen, done with the kettlebells and getting ready to attack the box himself.
And it's interesting, there are a couple people pointing out in the comments, like if you watch Will when he lands on his box, he's a little bit taller. He's not landing in that low squat like we're seeing from his evil twin brother Abercrombie on the opposite side. He's landing very low, and so that is an interesting difference in technique there and how that will affect the squats. Is it better to land high, take a little bit slower of a turnover to get to the other side, or land low for a faster pivot? Kind of that just depends on I would assume, your capability with the squats.
And probably for people who want to compete in this sport, it's worth learning and practicing both, especially if you have a set of 100. You can switch potentially back and forth between those techniques every 20, maybe favoring the one that's more preferable for you, and leaning on the other one is just a reprieve from the muscle groups that get the demand on one and the other. As the athletes are working towards the finish, they're going to be taking those kettlebells back down the way they came. So now they're counting down from 100 to 80. You're chasing the number that's in front of you. So they'll do, he's now done with 40. He has 60 remaining is Corey Brommery in the green shirt in the foreground. Travis Flanagan just hidden behind the judge there with the fun pants from the judge in lane number 5. By the way, Suze, I think that you might look good in those.
I like those pants. No one wants a roundhouse kick to the face while he's wearing those. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, anyway, he's obstructing Travis Flanagan from our view right now, but Flanagan is second in the heat. Brent Abercrombie third in the heat. So the top 3 guys that we've had throughout continue to lead: Brommery, Flanagan, and then Brent Abercrombie. Will Abercrombie in the all black in the background on his last set of 20. Eamon Coyne moving into his second to last set. He's got 40 box jump overs to go. Colin Leonard working on the reps 21 through 40 for the box jump over. As far as time cap goes, we're just about at the 20-minute mark. On the women's side, we did have 3 finishers underneath 20 minutes. So, yes, the first heat of the Masters men here is at a slower pace than the both heats of the Masters women were in terms of top performers.
Oh, see what happens like Abercrombie.
That was strange.
Yeah, kettlebell. I don't know if it slipped or if it looked like it might have slipped. I don't think he tossed it, but it definitely hopped over a lane there. That was interesting.
Did not learn from Brommery. He did not reapply the shirt. In the meantime, Flanagan has passed by Brommery. This is the first time anyone other than Brommery has been in the lead in this heat. Travis Flanagan with the most points, coming in 7th place overall amongst any men in this heat. He'll ultimately be trying to push his way into the final heat. They will reseed before event 6 and 7, which will be a back-to-back event later today. In order to do that, he needs to track down Irving Hernandez. Irving Hernandez is going to be a fun athlete to watch in this one. The toes to bar and the squats, he's going to be awesome. Snatches, probably not too bad either. It's going to be a big box jump over for him, and with that being the movement that can take the most time, I'll be curious to see how he does going against some athletes in the next heat that are as much as 8 to 10 inches taller than him.
And Travis is locked in. He's got his fingers laced behind those kettlebells. Oh, he just unlaced them, but he had those fingers laced by the kettlebells the same way Caroline did in that last 40 reps there. And I don't think he's setting those things down. Finish line is in sight for him. He has just passed up Corey now, and that's the first time that lead exchange has happened. And he smells that finish line. He is jamming through these last 20 of his squats. Smells the finish line. That was...
Tell us how the finish line smells, Matt. 21:30 on the clock. Flanagan working on his last set here. Brommery advancing to the last set at 20. Abercrombie with less than 40 to go.
That was a Stacy Tovar moment I just had. Yeah, he's close.
And Flanagan done at 21:54.
Yeah. 22 minutes on the clock right now. It looks like Corey's getting close to finishing here. We'll wait for the judge's hand in the air as he's getting close to finishing as well, too. Time cap definitely a factor for this heat of Masters males right here. It was not a factor at all in the women's.
Bromley less than 5 reps to go. Looking to be the second finisher in the first of 2 heats for the Masters men. Flanagan already in at 21:54. Abercrombie, far side of the floor, moving into his last set at 20 as Bromley finishes at the 22:34 mark. Brent Abercrombie, far side of the screen, less than 20 reps to go. We're about 2 minutes, 15 seconds from the time cap. Middle of the floor in the black is Will Abercrombie. He's got less than 80 reps to go. Eamon Coyne has made his way to the kettlebells, and it's just going to be a race against the clock here now. 2 minutes to the time cap. 3 men working on the kettlebell squats. Colin Leonard off screen with less than 40 reps to go on the box jump over. Brent Abercrombie grinding for these last reps here. 23:20 on the clock. Looking for a signal from the judge here to hopefully indicate the last 5 reps. Doesn't put the hand up, but they are done. 23:28 for Brent Abercrombie, third finisher in the heat. Got some clarification from the floor. Travis Flanagan did, in fact, do all of the box jump overs. He forgot to advance his box, or the judge forgot to have him advance his box in the first section of 20. So he did 40 there and then 20, 20, 20. And that was what the little confusion was about. He probably made his move against Bromley earlier than we thought. Just didn't know that because of that little miscommunication between him and the judge. Either way, Travis Flanagan did complete all 400 reps. He will have the time to beat 21:54 as we have 45 seconds left to the time cap. Will Abercrombie, next closest to finishing. He's got less than 40 reps to go. You know he's in the pain cave here, Matt, but you can't put him down with 30 seconds left.
No, and again, he's got those fingers laced behind the head. I don't know if that's like a mental thing for these athletes. Like they just lock and load right there, and they're like, right, I'm committed to this. But yeah, with these last 25 seconds coming up, he better not put those down. Oh, look at the cycle rate here from
Eamon Coyne, the far side of the screen.
Yeah.
He did have the kettlebells down with about 30 seconds to go, but he picked them up, and he's racing against the clock fast. This is probably the fastest cycle time we've seen of any squats alongside Hannah Oakley in the second Masters heat. 3 seconds to the time cap, and Abercrombie sets forward. He'll get 2 reps, so he'll come up 18 reps short of finishing. Eamon Coyne in the middle of his squats, and Colin Leonard had just finished his box jump overs on the far side of the floor. So 3 athletes time capped in that one. 3 athletes finished. 21:54. Travis Flanagan will be the time to beat as the second of 2 Masters heats. Get ready to take the floor here on Sunday morning from Spartanburg, South Carolina.
This final heat of Masters male here has to be the funnest, most entertaining heat ever. I mean, with between like Hutchinson and these other guys like just playing around. Speaking of which, it's coming over here now.
Sponsored by Rain.
The cameras are facing this way. You're good. Mark Hutchinson coming over to greet the media team.
Yes.
Such a nice man to do that. He's also the leader of this competition. Hutchinson taking over the lead from Hudson Fricke, who had been the leader throughout up to that point. He comes in with 349 points. Hudson is in the second spot at 325. Mark gained 68 points against Hudson Fricke yesterday on the last event of the day. Mark had won that one in 5:12. Hudson taking 7th at 8:52, a big points gap. So he flipped a 40-point deficit into a 25-point lead. Chad Cackert comes in 3rd overall. He's at 294. This is where things get interesting. Kyle Ruth is in 4th at 284. Easy Muhammad is in 5th at 266. So 30 points or so between Cackert, Ruth, and Muhammad. Irving Hernandez will be the other athlete in this heat. The 6th athlete in this heat. He has 211 points, and with the opportunity for some big scoring gaps, Irving Hernandez certainly in this. He has 2 second-place finishes so far against the field, and then an 8th and a 9th. We talked about his range of motion, over 400 reps when you think about toes to bar, snatches, and squats. That could be a massive advantage. Work capacity, as defined in the level 1, factors in distance. And even though he's moving the same load, he has to move it for less distance because he's a lot shorter than most of these guys. The box jump over is the one movement that will be disadvantageous to him in that regard. It is the movement that takes the most time. So we'll keep track of Fernandez because another second-place finish here could tighten up that gap, and we may end up having an extremely compelling 4-person race for the final podium spot later today.
I think Hutchinson's going to crush this one.
Well, he's the first man to break there in the middle of the floor. Left to right on your screen, Irving Hernandez is in lane number 6. Kyle Ruth in the pink shirt, lane number 5. Hudson Fricky, no shirt, black shorts, is in lane number 4. Mark Hutchinson in the white leader jersey, tank top there in the middle of the floor, lane number 3. Chad Cackert with the black hat, he's got a colorful hat on today, but he's wearing a hat every event. No sandals for this one. He's in lane number 2. And Easy Muhammad, far side of the screen in the white t-shirt in lane number 1. These are the top 6 men coming into the day. Everyone chasing Hutchinson. Everyone chasing Traven Flanagan's time from the first heat, which was 21:54.
And if you guys could see, I don't know if you could see from the camera angle, but we had talked about the trapeze playing a factor in the fact that it swings. It's a dynamic bar. Hutchinson just tried to do a regrip on it, and he started swinging. He actually had to come down, stop it, and then re-jump up onto that bar. And so that really shows, as these guys try to pull into it or engage their lats a little bit more, the whole apparatus swings, which makes it much more difficult than a fixed pull-up bar.
Heat 2 of 2 for the Masters men. This is event 5 of 7 on day 3 of 3 from competition at the CrossFit Crash Retour 2023. The 4th time the CrossFit Crucible has had this. CrossFit Crash has had the Crucible competition here. This is the 100s chipper, rewritten from 2011 regionals. And yeah, Souza, as you're talking about, the difference in the amount that the bar is swinging for Hutchinson compared to Fricky is extreme. You also might notice there on the left side of the red pole with no shirt on how narrow Hudson's grip is. Hudson is a local athlete here. There is some element of a home court advantage when the trapeze bars have been here in the open gym area of Crash for these athletes to practice on. So he may have had an opportunity. All of these athletes had the chance to practice upon check-in, by the way. One of the cool things about what JR does is when he has that check-in on Thursday, the trapeze bars were out, the flip sleds were out, the handstand walk obstacle course was out. All of the unique elements that you may not have at your own gym were there and available for you to get touches on. Many athletes taking advantage of that. But when you live here, obviously you have a lot more opportunity. And Hudson Fricky, as we mentioned, was the first to break on this implement. His bar is swinging less than almost everyone else. He's using a narrow grip than everyone else. And I guarantee you he wasn't sharing those secrets in the warm-up area.
No, it's a much tighter kip, too. If you watch, a lot of people are really trying to fly back into that arc like you would on a normal Tota bar. And I don't think that's the right strategy with this trapeze bars because as they go further back, especially if you watch Hutchinson, I mean, he's a big boy. There's a lot of weight at the end of that, too, which plays a factor, right? But if you look at his kip compared to Freaky's kip, it's super tight. He barely gets those legs back and then he fires back forward, right? And so that's going to be a definite advantage for that. Also, too, there were some athletes like James Sprigg who were out here for a week prior to the competition, correct? So you could have come out early. The events were known and got some more time in if you had that ability to.
Yeah, James Sprague taking advantage of his friendship with Jason Hopper, who let him stay with him for a few days over in Greenville. It's a beautiful part of the country to come visit anyway. James and Jason playing some golf, doing some workouts, and, of course, getting ready for competition for James this weekend. And Jason in 2 weeks as he'll be heading out to Austin for the Rogue Invitational for his 3rd time there.
Good morning,
all the
gentlemen.
athletes getting close to 100.
Good morning.
Oh, shit. I was like, who said that? Sevan.
I know, the mini box in the corner. Good morning. Good morning.
Mark Hutchinson,
It is.
349 points. Hudson Freaky, 325 points. And in 3rd place, Chad Cackert, the man with the greatest name, 294 points. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing? It's 6:40 local time where you're at. You hanging in
Living
there?
the dream. Living the dream,
Yeah,
buddy. Living
baby.
the dream. Another 10 hours of sleep for Sevi.
I'm looking forward to that tonight.
Sevan, we'll bring you up to date here. This is the 2nd of 2 heat for the Masters men. Travis Flanagan had the time to beat of 21:54 in the first heat. Mark Hutchinson, who you mentioned as the overall leader, is the first athlete off of the 100 toes to bar at the 4-minute and 30-second mark. They have 400 reps to complete in this workout. The second implement is the dual kettlebell snatch, which you see Mark working on there, wearing the leader jerseys that are provided by J.R. Howell and Vindicate. These are only 35-pound kettlebells, lightweight because the reps are high. They have 100 reps with the kettlebells for the snatch, and then later 100 reps with the squat. As one commenter mentioned earlier, light does not necessarily mean easier. In many cases, for the best athletes in the world, it's more difficult because there's less excuse to take a break.
Why? I don't mean to pigeonhole Travis Flanagan, but why is Travis Flanagan the winner? I think of him as the strong man from Heat 1. What about? And I think of this is more of to see the leaner, more endurance type looking athlete.
Yeah, I mean, Travis absolutely has some strength behind him, but he's a well-rounded athlete. Actually, other than he did have a top 6 finish on the other longer workout that we had, the one that took over 17 minutes for most of these guys. So he has the capacity to go long as well. And, you can't probably do as well in the sport of CrossFit as Travis has already without having a little bit more to your game than just being strong.
What is the third movement after the swings?
It is the box jump overs.
Yeah, the floor layout here, Sevan, as they're advancing.
What'd you just do? So they'll advance from these double kettlebell hang snatches to 100 box jump overs on the 24-inch box, and then after that they can return for another 100 kettlebell squats. And they can hold those kettlebells anyway. So Sevan, we've been seeing them actually resting it on their back and kind of holding it in this weird grip with them resting there, because it's not designated where the kettlebells have to sit. So they don't have to sit in a front rack position, which is normally what you would think about with a kettlebell squat.
Brian's signal is significantly choppier than yours. Are you guys hooked up to the internet the same way?
I'm actually on Wi-Fi and he's hardwired in, believe it or not.
Yeah, something doesn't make sense. All right.
But the Hiller cam is looking crisp and fresh this morning, and it's been doing well for us.
All right.
Brian, you're muted or something, buddy.
In the lane closest to us is Elijah Muhammad in the foreground.
No. Opposite.
So thank you. In the furthest lane in the white T-shirt doing the kettlebell swings is Elijah Muhammad. Next to him, who has appeared. Is he still on the swings? Is Chad Cackert ahead or behind?
No, Chad Cackert he went down the floor to grab some chalk. He's currently in a battle with 4 other guys for third place in the heat.
And then Mark Hutchinson is the lone man who has advanced to the 60 round. And then next to him is Hudson Freaky, who has been putting on a show and is in contention to win this entire thing with his best friend against his best friend, Mark Hutchinson. And then Kyle Ruth in the red shirt. Is that correct? And then finally, barely in the screen, Irving Hernandez.
As the athletes are progressing away from us, Sevan, they're chasing the number below their feet. So when they're standing above 60, that means they need to get to 60 reps before they can step forward to the round of 80 and 100. Once they get to 100, they'll set the kettlebells down and move to the box, and that will be exactly the same. They'll move 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. On the way back, they're going to be counting down from 100 to 0 with the kettlebells. We'll see that in a few minutes.
They laid this floor last night.
Yeah, we all helped.
Yes.
Any of the segments that have a problem were laid by Tyler Watkins. Everything else was everyone else.
It is truly beautiful. GoWad must be so proud. What a great floor.
It's incredible. The work that JR and his team has put in here is top notch. And I would also like to point out that this heat is a lot closer together than the last 3 heats we saw, the last male and the 2 heats of women's masters before this. This is going to be a tight race. It's going to be interesting as to who's pacing this portion well, because when they get to those box jump overs, that's a big separator. I mean, we've seen people get there and have a lead of 5, 7 reps and then get completely blown away as they get to the back half of those 100 box jump overs.
Don't look at Brian. When you look at Brian, his mic picks up your mouth and we get an echo. Believe it or not, I'm serious. It's crazy. Brian, is that who you're looking at when you look over there?
Yeah, I could. Yeah,
we're right next to each other.
I need to switch you guys there. There we go.
We're approaching the 9-minute and 30-second mark on the clock. On the women's side, the Masters have already done this, Sevan. We saw a fast time from Caroline Klutz at 18:03, and 3 women go sub 20 minutes. All 3 of those women were done with their kettlebell snatches at the 10-minute mark. The only thing that's different for the men and the women in this workout is the weight of the kettlebells. The women also did a 24-inch box jump over. The kettlebells aren't heavy. It was 2 times 26 pounds for the women. These are 2 times 35 pounds for the men. But that difference in weight has proven to be more difficult for the men relative to the women so far in the Masters division.
Yeah, I'm looking at this at the leaderboard. Caroline Klutz, first place, another 100 points for event 5. Incredible. And then Mackenzie Riley in the women's Masters took second place in that with 79 points. So that with that performance-based scoring and the 1 minute win over her, that equated to 20 points. Crazy.
And Jamie
Wow. In
Latimer,
third place only. In third place. Sorry, go ahead. What about Latimer?
she had her best finish of the weekend, which I think you just realized.
Yeah. And she got 64 points. So the performance-based scoring is having a huge impact on this. Caroline Lutz is running away with it, 140-point lead.
Yeah, Caroline's out of touch for the win on the women's side. There are still some potential battles to be had on the podium side, and we're getting close to having some of the athletes finish up with this first half in terms of reps on the workout here. But the 11-minute mark has now passed, and both Hutchinson and Fricke are walking away from their 35-pound kettlebell. So if you thought that the lightweight was easy, make no mistake, that is not easy. And those are some very strong men that are struggling with the volume of reps here. Potentially also the grip, as we've talked about. They're getting towards the 200 rep mark, all 200 reps to open up this chipper demand a grip component.
What is the fatigue on these gentlemen coming into day 3 here at the Crucible?
Got a chance to talk to some of the athletes earlier today, and midline is feeling it quite a bit. We've already had the 120 GHDs. We had the flip sleds, 500 pounds for the men. They had to pick those up off the ground. They had the inverted handstand walk, which is, it's demanding on the core. If you don't do those, you won't realize that. And of course, the 100 toes bar right off the bat here before the kettlebell snatches. There is a bit of a reprieve, though, for the grip and the midline. 100 box jump over is the next part of this, and Fricke and Hutchinson rep for rep there in the middle of the floor, continuing to lead this heat. On the left side of the screen, Hernandez and Ruth appear to be rep for rep. They're third and fourth in the heat, so we have 4 men working on their opening set of 20 kettlebells. Kackert with less than 20 snatches to go. Easy Muhammad with less than 20 snatches to go, so everyone's still within 40 reps of each other.
And we're going to have a tight race here as it comes to this box jump. These guys are looking fatigued. This is the second heat where we've seen those gentlemen set those kettlebells down and literally take a knee on the competition floor. Not something you typically see. So this will be a good tight race as they get to the back half of these box jumps.
Jeremy World, I'd imagine not many of these athletes do double dumbbell hang kettlebell snatches in bulk like this. It's a favorite of the thumb and most likely J.R. Howell.
And you know what this reminds me of, which was an excellent choice on JR's part, was the hundreds was one of the first times we saw that 70-pound dumbbell snatch. So if you remember that, that was the first time we saw that in competition during the hundreds. And now we see it with the kettlebells, which we do not see, as Sevan just pointed out, high repetition hang kettlebell snatches. So a cool implement there by JR.
What's the height of the box?
24-inch box jump overs for every division. The women had the 24-inch, the men have the 24-inch. The elite athletes will also have 24 on the box jump. The only difference male to female in this is the weight of the kettlebells. Everything else is the same. Currently at the 13.5-minute mark, 25-minute time cap. So we talked about it earlier. When that hundreds workout was programmed back in 2011, not very many athletes finished. In designing this workout, JR did want most of the athletes to finish. That's the reason for the 25-minute cap. All 8 Masters women finished under the cap. In the first heat of Masters men, half of them were time capped.
Of the 4 movements between male and female athletes, which one do you think, since they're doing the same workout, which one do you think was
well, the men
there should have been the bit. Go ahead.
Men have the advantage on the box jump, obviously, with everyone doing the 24, and then, on average, probably being 4 to 6 inches taller than the average female athlete. The women have shown that they have the advantage on the kettlebells, and there's twice as many reps with the kettlebell than the box. So even though the box is a slower cycle rate, I think that's why you're seeing the women outperforming the men so far.
Okay, and that is exactly where I was going. How do we have Caroline Lutz with an 1803 with a high box, and Travis Flanagan with the 2154, the current leader in the men's division?
It's definitely those kettlebell snatches.
Keep in mind, Caroline Lutz's performances so far have been on par with the best individual athletes we've seen on the women's side. So for her specifically, I would say that we probably want to compare her scores to the top individual elite men to see if that's actually going to hold up. If you look at the 1903 from Mackenzie Riley, the 1947 from Jamie Latimer, that's probably a better parallel to what the top performances on the male master side is going to be. 15 minutes have passed by, less than 40 reps to go for Hutchinson and Fricky. Kyle Ruth has made a move. He's in the same section as them in the left on the red box, just off screen. Irving Hernandez pushing his box forward. This keeping Irving Hernandez being this close to these guys is something to take note of. He is by far the shortest athlete on this field, and with only the kettlebell squats remaining, I think that is the movement of these four where he can potentially close down even 20 reps against some of those guys that are over 6 feet tall.
Can we tilt the camera or pan the camera a little to the left, just maybe an inch or two, and then I think we can get Irving.
It's daylight here, Sevan.
Yeah, yeah, boy. Thank you. There's our boy Irving.
Irving on the far left, as I said, those four men on the left side of the screen, all working on their fourth set of 20 reps in each section. Hutchinson and Fricky in the middle of the floor moving forward at the same time. 1 rep done for Hutchinson, and now 2 as Ruth moves forward. Fricky with his hand moves in the middle of the floor. So now it's Hutchinson, then Ruth, Fricky in third, Irving Hernandez in fourth on the far left side, and on the right side of the screen, Kackert and Muhammad going rep for rep, one section behind the other men.
As I take a quick peek over at the male elites, for those of you who are wondering, when we see Colton Mertens take the floor today, he will take the floor in 5th place with 295 points. In 4th place, right above him, is Jack Rosemo with 308 points. So they got a little race going. But Colton is also not clear of Max Krieg, who is hot on his tail with 284, and Mr. McQueen at 281. We're going to have a tight race in the male elite division.
4 men in the final section here on the box jump over. Hutchinson still leading. Ruth in the red shirt has passed Fricky for second in the heat, but Fricky's cycle rate on these box jump overs after a big break is faster than anyone else. And Fricky has proven to show some strategy in this regard. Big break, fast cycle rate. He overtakes from Ruth, and all 3 men are tied on reps right here. Hutchinson, Fricky, and Ruth, but Hutchinson with his hands on the kettlebells first. We're at the 17:15 mark, 100 reps remaining. Now the reps are going to be counting down. So they'll do 100, move forward to the 80, 60, 40, 20. When they step forward, you'll know the number beneath their feet is the number of reps they have remaining.
I am not seeing depth. I am not seeing depth. Excuse me, Suze. I am not seeing depth from Fricky or Hutchinson. And I know we don't have a great angle on that, but we can also see that next to him in the red, who is that? Kyle Ruth has definitely got depth.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have a much better vantage point on those squats, and I would definitely say he is riding that line tight. That's a nice way of saying he's high.
I mean, Ruth is deep. Ruth is below parallel. Although with each one, maybe getting a little bit shorter. Oh, yeah, look at Brian has gotten up from the table. Is Brian going to go interfere with the judging? Let's hope so.
It looks, yes, yeah. There was something. I saw him just go over and say something at JR. JR looks like he yelled something over to one of the judges. So, and if we
teamwork makes the dream work. Is that how it goes? Is that this teamwork makes the dream work?
Yeah, and if we can get, hold on.
Hopefully we can get the camera to shift a little to the left. Irving Hernandez has caught up to these guys. 4 men in the same section.
Is Hiller there manning the Hiller cam?
Yeah, he is, but he was actually really focused in on the squats, and he was talking with JR. So we get him to pan. You can see Henderson is making a move. His cycle rate is quick. He is now caught up with the other 2 men, and that's what Brian, you were talking about that earlier.
Irving Hernandez is now leading this heat. Hutchinson moved forward first, but Hernandez did not put the kettlebells down while Hutchinson did. Fricky also in that section, Ruth in that section. So Hernandez leading now, and we talked about this. He was 6th coming in. But with the point scoring system, if he's able to get a first here, he could potentially really tighten that gap. Both Elijah Muhammad and Chad Kackert currently holding the 3rd spot overall, well behind the entire heat here. So Hernandez and Hutchinson, then Fricky and Ruth.
I don't know if I'm giving Fricky any of those, man. I got to tell you, I don't know if I'm giving him those. I yell at my wife for that shit right there. I know that move, and they tell you they can't go further, but they can, because every once in a while you'll see it happen.
Yes, and he seems to be leaned pretty far forward with his chest as well. And so you're right. He could definitely sit into it because we've seen him go deeper. It looks like he's being called and told to go a little deeper now. But there's
I don't know if Hernandez going deep enough also? I mean, look at Ruth. Ruth is fucking everyone up, man. He has got 3 inches deeper than everyone. Ruth is making everyone look bad.
Yeah, Ruth goes deep.
I am appreciating that sweat mark on Irving Hernandez also.
Hernandez in the lead, left side of the screen in the green shorts. Hudson Fricky was the second man to advance his kettlebell, as he has been doing big breaks before big sets. Kyle Ruth in the red shirt has overtaken Hutchinson. So Hutchinson, leader coming into the day, has been leading most of this event, but he's given away that lead to 3 different men. Hernandez is looking to make a push here. Less than 20 reps to go. 20 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. 21:54 the time from Flanagan that they're all chasing. So probably an unbroken set here from Irving Hernandez is going to give him his first event win of the weekend. He also has 2 second-place finishes. Couple that with an 8th and a 9th. So it's boom or bust for Hernandez throughout the weekend. 4 reps to go. Going to set the top score here. It's going to be under 21 minutes.
Yep.
20:56 for Hernandez. He'll take the heat and take the event for the Masters men to start things off on day number 3. That is a critical data point. We'll then be looking for the median score, and the points distribution will be based on that. Kyle Ruth looking to take second overall here. As we mentioned, Ruth coming into the day, 4th place just off the podium. And Chad Cackert, the guy who he's chasing, well back on this heat. So a big opportunity for Kyle Ruth as well. And a couple of the guys from off the podium sending a message here early on day 3. The overall leader, Mark Hutchinson, is on one knee with less than 20 reps to go. Ruth and Fricky both chipping away at those last 20 reps. Travis Flanagan's time is going to be very relevant here. Ruth finishes at 21:38, 3 seconds ahead of Flanagan. 15 seconds ahead of Flanagan.
And you guys
done
can't see it on
21:46. He finishes just ahead of Flanagan's time from Heat 1 as well.
And you guys couldn't see it because the judge in the pajama pants there was blocking our view, but he was getting much lower on the squats. Lizzie Self was standing right on top of him as well too. The judge had changed the angle, so he was definitely getting lower in those last 20 squats. So they made some adjustments on the floor there.
I have some notes. I have some notes for JR's for next year's show, and one of them is no pajama pants on the floor. I just added that to the list.
22-21 for Mark Hutchinson, 4th finisher in this heat. He does get ahead of Kyle Bromery from the previous heat, who had come in at 22:34. So top 4 times coming out of this heat: Hernandez, Ruth, Fricky, Hutchinson. Left, right on your screen. 2 men still working away: Cackert and Easy Muhammad with 50 squats to go. And 2 minutes, 15 seconds to the time cap.
As Brian stated earlier, Irving Hernandez wins the overall Masters event with a 20:56. That's 58 seconds faster than second place. Oh, no, because Ruth beat Travis Flanagan. So we had 2 people in this heat, 4 people in this heat who beat Travis Flanagan. Is that correct, Brian?
3 people beat Flanagan. Flanagan 4th, Hutchinson 5th, Bromery 6th in terms of placement so far. Easy Muhammad, 40 reps to go for him, and he needs to get in across the finish line. We also had Brett Abercrombie coming at the 23:28 mark. That's going to pass by. 10 seconds until that mark. 100 seconds until the time cap for Muhammad and Cackert. And we talked about how the podium race could really tighten up, but with Cackert and Muhammad kind of fading backwards here, there are 200 more points available later on today, but this is really good news for Hernandez and Ruth.
Is that really the way to hold it?
Basically, they're making it into a back squat instead of a front squat.
Mm-hmm.
There is still obviously a little bit of a demand on the arms, but I think overall the surface area of the back supporting the weight is, yes, a good idea. See Easy Muhammad just adjusting his feet there. You know, the lactic acid buildup in the legs, 100 box jump over straight into 100 squats is no laughing matter. It's really difficult, and you see Hutchinson still rolling around on the ground. Earlier, we talked about the order of the implements here is something that JR and I actually went back and forth on several times. So it's grip, leg, with the kettlebells being the second and fourth movements there. A bunch of testing went into this one, so we know exactly what this feels like, and this is how we wanted this to feel for the men and the women at the end of this long event. 30 seconds to the time cap, less than 20 reps for Muhammad and Cackert. Muhammad likely to finish. Cackert with the kettlebells on the ground probably will not finish. We did have 3 men in the first heat who didn't finish. 15 seconds to go. Hand up in the air for Easy Muhammad. He'll be done at 24:47, so he gets in. 8th best time amongst the men in this heat. So he's going to give away big points to Ruth and Hernandez. And as the time caps hits, Chad Cackard, who came into the day third overall, will need some massive performances on the gymnastics test later today to offset a lot of points that he gave away on this one.
Who's up next?
I think it's the
Up
team.
next is going to be the team final. It's going to be the last event that we do on this stream. We're going to switch to an individual stream, I believe, after that. Or maybe, wait, hold on. Let me check the schedule. But yeah.
I can check.
Yeah,
also.
We go elite women.
No.
And then
So, Sevan,
It
and
does
for
look
everyone
like-
else who's listening, today is going to be a little different than the previous days. We were able to stream every heat for every division the last 2 days. Today, there is multiple events happening on competition floors at the same time. So far already this morning, team event 5 has taken place on the turf. We just saw Masters women and men do individual event 5 on the main floor. Team event 5 is going to take place right now, or event 6. Their final event is going to take place on the main floor. This will be nothing else going on right now. The spotlight is on the team for them to finish their day. When this one finishes, the individual elite women will start that long 25-minute workout on the main floor, and the Masters have a 1 hour turnaround from event 5 to event 6 or 7. So we're going to shift over to the turf to bring you the finale of the Masters coverage. We're going to miss several of the opening heats of the women. That's okay. I don't think we need to stream 13 25-minute workouts today. And then we'll come back for the final heats of the individual women who will take on the same test we just saw from the Masters.
Although Brian did express that very clearly, don't feel like anyone has to remember that. We will bring you along. You will see the final heats for sure of all the athletes. But basically, the big takeaway now to get from Brian is we are going to switch to the team final event very shortly here. In less than 30 minutes, we will know who the champion team is at Crash Crucible. There's only one event left for them. They're going to get at it, and we're going to party with them. I'd also like to say Jeffrey Birchfield has triggered me. Pajama pants good enough for school, good enough for CrossFit. You will be hearing a rant about kids who wear pajamas to school on Mondays, the Sevan Podcast live call-in show. Also, Adam Blakesley does a fact check during the middle. Fact checker says those aren't pajama pants, but classic pant called the Zubaz. Educated listeners on the show, always schooling us. Thank you.
Sevan,
Vince,
in the private chat, I just sent you the leaderboard for the teams. I will review performance-based scoring when we get back to the Masters division. But I want to focus on the teams. They do not have performance-based scoring. If you can open that leaderboard, we can set the stage for what we're looking at here in terms of the podium race. There's still quite a lot to fight for on the team side of things.
And just
Head
a
over
side
to-
note, never let your kids wear pajama pants to school. All
Thank
of those
you.
kids.
Thank you.
It was not.
Thank you.
It never turned out well. Okay, just don't do
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. I appreciate you not letting that die. It is that
Sevan
inappropriate.
doesn't have to worry about that because his kids don't go to school.
Thank
But
you.
if they did,
Thank
they
you.
would
Another-
never wear pajama
another-
pants.
No, by the way, no rain boots ever. But if you have to wear rain boots, you definitely don't wear them on sunny days or take your kids to sporting events in rain boots. Don't do that one either. There's always a few of those kids. What are you doing? Okay, here we go. This is what Brian asked for. These are the top teams. Talk to us, Brian.
So take a look there. We see BRRH, the teams from Blue City. They have not won a single event, but they are the overall leaders with 445 points, thanks to tremendous consistency. They've actually been second on every single thing until E6, where they were third. Camo has been surging after a poor performance on day one relative to everything else. They have gone first, second on the last 3 opportunities to earn points, past Apex Performance Pack, past Zax and JR, and are chasing down BRRH. However,
Brian, let me question you here really quick. You said the BRRH team was consistent, but it looks like on the last 2 events they shit the bed with the 45 and 40.
well, what's the highest score that you see anyone knows?
Okay. So that was that wasn't scored with 100 points.
That was
That's
those
50
those
points.
events happened back to back in a 10-minute window. They were 50 points each, so there's still 100 points available. They earned they got second to Camel on the first part and third behind Camo and Crash on the second part.
That happened when I was sleeping.
That happened when you were sleeping.
Okay.
And Sevan, earlier you asked about the fatigue of these athletes going in. These teams just finished up that sled drag or the sled push and then the sled pull. That's going to potentially play a factor in the hamstrings, in the quads, in the posterior chain for the box jumps in the squats at the end of this event.
Shall I take us to the show, Brian? Man, we're off. Team's final event 6 has started. The point spread is 445 in first, 425 for second, and in third place 405. There can be a shift here. Camo is going to have to work really hard and get some help from the other teams if they want to take first place here.
So let me explain what's going on in this event. It's a team version of the same 2011 regionals chipper that we saw in male-female pairs and in waterfall style, meaning that the first male-female pair must finish all of the work at every station before the second one can start. They will do 50 synchro toes to bar. So what we see here is the women on the far side of the floor. They're looking at their counterpart, the male counterpart on the opposite side of the floor, which you saw previously, and working towards 50 synchro toes to bar on the trapeze bar. When the first male-female pair finishes that, then the second male-female pair can start on the synchro toes to bar, and that first pair will advance to 50 synchro dual kettlebell hang snatch. They'll continue to follow in this waterfall style through 50 synchro toes to bar, 50 synchro dual kettlebell hang snatch, 50 synchro box jump over, and finally 50 synchro dual kettlebell squat. So at the very end of the workout, we'll have only 2 athletes in each division working once the first pair clears through their entire 200 reps. Hands are up in several of the lanes. No problem. Hands are up in several of the lanes. You're seeing athletes advance into the middle of the floor here. So I think we'll probably try to keep the camera on the leading pairs, which will be doing the dual kettlebell hang snatch. It'll be easier to see than the toes to bar. But basically, in the middle of the floor, we had 3 teams. Those will be BRRH. But closest to us is actually Zax and JR. So that's the team from CrossFit Crash. Next to them is the Camo team in lane number 4 with the black hat, or the backwards hat there. And then with no shirt on, Ryan Fitzpatrick on team BRRH doing kettlebell snatches with his female counterpart who you can barely see there. So those are the top 3 teams after the first set of 50. As they move to the kettlebell snatches, which every team has now, the second pair is working on the 50 toes to bar. So that's what that waterfall style means. When one clears, the second one can come in. If the pair doing toes to bar finishes before the pair doing snatches, the pair doing toes to bar must wait for them to finish their snatches before they can advance and start doing their set of 50. Back to the scoring system here. This is just going to be 10-point drops all the way down. So Blue City with a 20-point lead over Camo. For Camo to overtake them, they will need to make up that 20-point gap. Camo would have the tiebreaker either way. So Camo must win and have someone come in between, and Blue City finish at least third or worse in order for anything to change in terms of the top spot. The exact same scenario is true for Apex Performance Black relative to Camo because they're 20 points behind them. So Apex must finish ahead and have someone middle Camo if they want to overtake. Crash's team, who is amongst the 3 leaders there, is only 10 points behind Apex Performance Black for the podium. So they need to beat Apex Performance Black, and then he'll go to a tiebreak from there, which they would hold the tiebreak in that scenario. So there's plenty of opportunity for all 4 of those spots to shift amongst the top 4 teams who all want to be one of the 3 who stand on the podium.
And Camo will win any tie as they're the only team with 2 first-place finishes. Is this a 25-minute time cap for this one, too?
I believe so, yes. I'll just double-check real fast.
Souza out on the floor.
No, 15-minute time cap.
Oh.
Because the individuals had to do 400 reps. Every individual here only has to do 200 reps. The team has to do the total reps, but in pairs. And right now we have the BRRH team, who are the overall leaders, the first to the box jump overs. About 4 reps behind them is Camo. Remember, Camo doesn't only need to beat them. They also would need someone to come in between. So BRRH's first pair is doing exactly what is needed here in terms of maintaining their overall lead in the competition.
And as you can see, the synchronization has to happen at the top of the box. You can see the young lady in the green shorts is waiting for her partner at the top of the box. So what I'm presuming then is if she jumps over all the way before he makes it to the top of the box, it's a no rep. So she's waiting for him in a deep squat, which can't be fun. There he is. See her there waiting for him, and then he comes over. He's a little more fatigued than she is.
Bryn Carrick and Ryan Fitzpatrick are the leading duo for that Blue City team. But ultimately, Hayden Weddle and Rachel Blong, their second pair, will need to keep this pace because it's when the second pair finishes that the time is logged. So just because there's a team in the lead in their first pair doesn't mean that they're necessarily leading the overall competition.
Ooh, that was close.
Ahead.
That was close. She came off the box before him. That was close. There's something weird going on. He's slipping off the side of the box.
That's actually a technique that a lot of athletes use. They land with that forward foot towards the edge of the box there as an easy transition to get off of it on the other side. It's something that you definitely want to practice. And with this box, it being 24 inches long, it's also 24 inches. It's wider. The men in general will be more used to this width of a box as usually actually the women would be more used to this width of the box because it's usually wider than the 24-inch surface for the men.
I know you can't speak in absolutes, Brian, but if this event were at the games and it were a team event, would the men and women have the same height box?
I mean, you could program it either way. I think that in this case, I think it's perfectly fine that he's done that. The kettlebell weights difference has proven to be just as big, if not more of a factor in the favor of the women. So I think it's okay to have a little bit of a balance here where there's some implements that could favor the men and others that might favor the women.
But how would Dave do it? How would Dave and Adrian do it? Do you recall?
I could quite frankly seeing them do it either way, and I think to some degree it depends on what else is going on within the context of that workout. Here we have the leaders from Blue City, their first pair at least, getting set on their last 50 reps of this event. They'll have dual kettlebell squats, as you see there, and the Camo team is right there. The Crash team is right there. Neither of them have picked up the kettlebells yet, and Blue City is at least 10 reps in. Looking back further down the floor to where what is ultimately going to matter more, the Camo team is 2 reps behind the Blue City team in terms of their second pair. Both pairs are well ahead of the Crash team. So if you're Blue City and you're aware of the scoring, you know that you just need to stay ahead of everyone else. Even if Camo beats you here, you can still win the overall competition. Now, from a competitive mindset, they'll still likely be trying to go for the win. But in terms of the points, that is the scenario. Camo would need to win and have another team beat Blue City to overtake that 20-point deficit. Both teams are about 10 reps ahead of the Crash team, who's going to be the third team to the box.
What's the time we're at right now?
8 minutes into a 15-minute time cap. And in terms of that second pair, they're the one that's chasing that cap. They've done 100 reps already to get to the box. They're about 20 reps through. The leaders are on the box, so they should have no problem in terms of the time cap for the top teams.
So Blue City is in the lead and doing what they have to do to take first place.
Right. Here what we're looking at is the leading pairs. So far, there's been no bottleneck at all. But they could clear the floor first and still, in theory, finish last. It all comes down to the second pair. So we're going to shift our attention to the second pair here as they finish up their box jumps. And that's where we'll really have an idea of who's leading this event overall. The first pair done is the Blue City team. Now, all that really means is that their other team won't have to wait at all once they finish their box jump overs. But as long as Camo's first pair finishes before the other pair finishes their box jump overs, then there's no gained advantage for that team finishing ahead of them.
Okay, sorry. It took me a long time to figure that out. Now I finally get it.
So
Thank you.
The first pair is only relevant in the instance that they slow down the other pair. There is a hand up in the air for Camo's second pair while their first pair that's on screen here is continuing to squat. So that now they're done, and the timing is actually perfect because they're finishing up as Camo finishes, their second pair finishes their last box jump. And Camo's second pair has overtaken the lead from Blue City. So even though that first pair from Blue City was incredibly impressive, it means nothing unless their second pair can match that pace.
And that's them right there with the Balderson lady?
This is the camo team. Balderston and Cates. Joe Cates, you remember yesterday. I think you liked the shirt better yesterday than today.
Sure did.
They are leading this event. Now, Camo has 3 event wins and a second. If they win this, that would be 4 event wins and 1 second. But even if they do that, if Blue City, who you see is just joining there, finishes second, it won't be enough. They'll still come up 10 points short for the overall competition.
Well, and the good thing is at least they know they did what they had to do. They won. They controlled as much as they could, but it wasn't enough.
Yes, and we're going to have one of those. We are setting up to have one of those scenarios where the winners of the competition will not have won any individual event, and the second place team will have won 4 of the 7 opportunities to score points.
Look at Balderston's squat, how deep it is.
Yeah, no issue with either of the squats here. I know there's a lot going on the floor, but depth is looking great. Now, in terms of the battle for third place, the CrossFit Crash team is third to the kettlebells. They're in the camo shirt there in the background. They need to close the 10-point gaps on Apex Performance. They'll hold a tiebreak over them. So if they finish third, they'll move into third and should be on the podium. And it is Camo getting the win there. So lock in another 100 points for them, 11-11 on the clock. And now they sit and wait. There's nothing else that they can do. They've gone 4 for 5 on the closing 5 events, taking second on the one that they didn't win after a slow first day. And I actually think that slow first day may have been due to jet lag as they drove nearly 20 hours overnight, I think, to get here.
This is the Crash team in the shop, Ryan. Is this the young lady who you said is 5'11"?
Yes, Reagan Hooks, Zach Galloway, the 2 athletes there. In the background, Hayden Weddle and Rachel Blanc finishing up. Blue City takes second. They'll take first overall and be your champions here. Camo Athletics will finish second on the podium. CrossFit Crash's team needs to finish next to guarantee at least a third place tie. And with the Apex Black team actually being in the back of the pack, CrossFit Crash's team is likely to end up being your third finisher in this event and your third finisher in this competition.
Is the Apex Predator team, is the Apex Black team ever even doing the squats yet?
They are just getting there, but both the Apex Purple team, who you see on screen, and the Apex Predators team is well ahead of them. On the left side in the gray shorts is the Apex Blacks team. They were last to the kettlebells. On the right is the Predators team. All of the teams remaining on the floor are working on their kettlebell squats. Don't see a hand up for any judge yet, but the Crash team is done at 12:38. Chalk them up for 80 points. That'll be third in the event. Should be good enough for third overall.
Oh, she looks like she's on a different planet.
The 3 Apex teams remaining on the floor. Looking to see which one's going to finish first. It's actually the Apex Purple team off camera, done at 13 minutes. They'll take fourth in the event. That'll secure CrossFit Crash as the third place team on the podium. And the last 2 teams on the floor are the Predators and Apex Black. We have
you can see the pressure she's putting on her face. She got a good burn going.
Apex Predators finish up under the time cap. Performance Black, the last ones on the floor. They got 1:15 to the time cap. Should be getting pretty close here. Oh, that is brutal to have to wait at the bottom like that.
She's gonna get no reps. She better be careful.
And that'll do it for the team competition here. Clearly in a lot of pain, but Apex Performance Black does get it done under the time cap. All 6 teams under the cap. Camo Athletics, another event win for them, will put them maintain their spot in second. Blue City ultimately taking care of business, consistent across the board with all 6 second places, 1 third place on the weekend. That'll be good enough to maintain the top spot. And Zach Streel from CrossFit Crash, knowing that he'd done enough to get on the podium, get some prize money coming over and give me a fist bump while the last teams were finishing up there.
A close race, tight race.
Oh, very tight race on the points margins. Yeah, it's going to come down to basically one spot. You know, if Blue City had finished one spot worse at any point on the weekend, or if Camo had finished one spot better on either of the events on day number one, they would have a flip at the top. It was Crash overtaping Apex there at the final for the third spot by quite a lot, but it was only 10-point gap coming into it. So very tight battle for all the spots in the team division. Only 6 teams, 4 of them very competitive with each other across all 3 days of competition.
2023 Crash Crucible team champ. Blue City CrossFit next time we see them, if they stay together, we'll be at the Crash Crescendo. There are rumors this is the last time teams will be here. They will have their own event. They have their own event.
All right, Sevan. So here's the deal.
Talk to me.
There's about 13 minutes from now, the individual women will start on their chipper. We're not going to be covering the early heats of that because 10 minutes after that, 10:45 here, 7:45 where you are, the Masters women will start their final event.
Okay.
We're going to be on the turf for that. I think that we should close this stream down and come back in 20 minutes for that. If you want to stay and hang out with the people, that's up to you, but I think I'm going to do that.
You're going to stay and hang out with the people?
No, I'm going to close down for 20 minutes, use the bathroom, get a bite to eat, move over to the turf, and get ready for the Masters women and then Masters men finale, 2-part finale.
Okay, so tell me exactly when does that event start? I'm gonna change the schedule.
7:45 Pacific time.
Okay, so should I? So I'll set it there. I'll set it for 7:45. And that first heat that we see will be the Masters female first and final heat of the day. First and final event of the day. First heat of the final event.
Correct, and it's 2 scored events. It's 12-minute total time cap, so it's relatively quick compared to the amount of action that's going on. So they'll have 2 heats of women, 2 heats of men to finish it up.
I love
we'll
it.
have to get they are reseeding the athletes. So I'm also during this 20 minutes going to try to get you the updated heat sheets.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Thank you. I will see you in 20 minutes. Everybody, we will see you in 20 minutes. It will be a new stream. Thank you, Brian Friend. There's Andrew Hiller. Thank you, Andrew Hiller. And you can see Susan's going over to the new floor area. Oh, look, you want to see Pedro? Look at, there's Pedro just hanging out. This Crash sweatshirt on. There he is. Brian taking off rubbing his ears because he's had the headphones on all day.
People wanted a facility tour, so I'm just kind of wandering around so they could see how freaking awesome this gym is. I think earlier Audrey was like, is it Mayhem Junior? And I'm like, no, it's Mayhem's equal.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they're probably square footage. Mayhem is bigger, right? But like, as far as all the bells and whistles for equipment and square footage and like, just it's freaking, this place is awesome.
Thank you, by the way. Thanks for holding down the fort. You did a great job commentating.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize how, I knew that was difficult, but yeah.
All right, brother. I will see you in 20 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.